My family tried to ruin my wedding. Am I the asshole for organizing a luxury cruise for my birthday and not inviting my parents or siblings? I, a 28-year-old male, work as a medical device development engineer for a large healthcare organization. Honestly, I never expected to find myself in this predicament. For context, I've been leading a groundbreaking initiative to create a new cardiac monitoring system that is transforming how we follow heart problems in real time. The technique we developed has the potential to save thousands of lives by detecting cardiac irregularities hours before a severe incident. Our team's work has been published in numerous leading medical journals, and we just received a renowned industry innovation award. Professionally, my life is flourishing. However, my familial situation is very different. That disparity has never been more clear than today, as I face what is perhaps the most important decision I've ever had to make about my familial relationships. I'm the middle child in a household with 3 siblings. My older brother Alex, 32 million, works as a cardiac surgeon at a famous hospital and is the perfect child. Sophia, 16F, my younger sister, is the baby of the family, and she is always showered with affection. Every year, their birthdays are huge celebrations. For Alex's last birthday, our parents leased out an entire premium restaurant, hosted over 100 guests, and spared no expense. When Sophia turned 16, they hired a live band and turned our backyard into a festival venue. I remember how they spent weeks preparing every detail, from creating custom decor to hiring a professional photographic crew. Let me paint you a picture of how I grew up. Every success I made was overshadowed by those of my siblings. I recall sitting at the dinner table on my 8th birthday, hearing my family talk about Alex's soccer game as if it were any other day. They had thrown him a massive superhero-themed party 2 weeks prior, complete with a magician, special costumes, and party favors that outperformed any item I possessed. The entire neighborhood was there, kids running around in capes and masks, and my parents were beaming with pride at their magnificent firstborn. When I eventually got up the confidence to ask if they had forgotten my birthday, my mother barely looked up from her phone and said, "Oh, sorry, honey, we've been so busy with Alex's tournament schedule and Sophia's dance performance. We will make it up to you next year." She returned to displaying everyone photos from Alex's party on her phone. I recall sitting there, staring at my untouched food and feeling invisible in my own home. They never made it up to me. Not that year or any other year. The pattern persisted throughout my childhood. When I was 13, we were enjoying a family meal when the waitress inquired about any upcoming birthdays. My mother actually chuckled and said, "Oh, just his, but we aren't doing anything major. He's not the type to require much." Everyone at the table giggled, as if it were a light-hearted joke. When I think back to that moment, the shame still burns in my chest. Later following year, they threw Sophia a half-birthday party because she was disappointed that her birthday fell during the summer while school was out. The gap wasn't limited to birthdays. Throughout my childhood, every request I made was answered with excuses, yet my siblings received whatever they want. When I was 10, Alex begged for the most recent game console. Our parents went 3 hours to another city to get it, stating, "Nothing's too much trouble for our future doctor." A few months later, I requested the local store for a scientific kit, which I planned to utilize for the school science fair. My mother disregarded it, stating, "That's too expensive right now." The following week, they purchased Sophia an iPhone simply because she mentioned wanting one in passing. They were not isolated incidents. Every accomplishment in my life was considered as an afterthought. I graduated from high school as valedictorian and was accepted into one of the top engineering institutions in the country. Most parents would be thrilled, right? I scarcely acknowledged it. My father simply responded, "That's nice," while gazing at his phone. My mother's only reply was, "Well, engineering was your backup since you didn't try for medical school like Alex." Alex was accepted to medical school the same month, and they celebrated with a wedding reception-themed party. They hired caterers, live music, and even had special decorations printed with the words, "Future Dr. Alexander" on them. 2 years later, when Sophia graduated from high school with ordinary grades, they hired a professional photographer, made a tribute video, and bought her a brand new automobile as a graduation present. My college graduation gift? A gift card to Best Buy. Now, let me tell you about my present career success, not to brag, but to demonstrate the stark contrast in how my family views accomplishments. For the past 2 years, I've led a team of 15 engineers in the development of a groundbreaking heart monitoring gadget. This is not just another medical device. We're talking about technology that has the potential to dramatically alter our approach to heart attack prevention. The device employs advanced AI algorithms to detect small cardiac problems up to 24 hours before a big incident, allowing clinicians critical time to treat. Our initiative has been highlighted in 3 major medical journals, and we recently received the Healthcare Innovation Award, one of the most distinguished accolades in our field. What's with the irony? Our gadget has the potential to benefit patients like the ones Alex treats, but he has never shown any interest in learning about my work. Throughout the award ceremony, my entire team's families were present, celebrating with champagne and taking proud photos. My parents? They did not even respond to the invitation. Last month, at our weekly family video call, I attempted to inform everyone about the honor. My mom interrupted me mid-sentence to ask Alex about his most recent operation schedule. They then spent 20 minutes admiring Sophia's Instagram images from her recent weekend excursion to the beach. My achievements were not even acknowledged. When I tried to bring it up again, my father simply said, "That's nice, son," before shifting the conversation to Alex's imminent department head nomination. I tried talking to them about this trend several times throughout the years. Each attempt has resulted in dismissal or gaslighting. "You're just too sensitive," my mother would say, rolling her eyes. "We treat all of our children equally," my father mumbled, avoiding eye contact as usual. Alex would smirk and add, "Maybe if you did something actually important," while Sophia would sigh deeply and label me an attention seeker. Despite their negligence, I've managed to have a prosperous life. I have a great career, good friends, and an amazing girlfriend, Stephanie, 27F, who has been really supportive throughout. She has seen personally how my family's treatment impacts me, even if I try to hide it. Last month, at a meal with her family, her mother made a greater production about my birthday than my own family has ever done. She prepared my favorite cake, which she recalled from a casual talk months earlier, and gave me a nice work-related gift. It was moving, but it also made me realize how much I had missed out on. That's what prompted my current decision. My birthday is in 3 weeks, and instead of preparing for another disappointment, I'm taking charge. I've booked a luxury cruise and organized a lavish celebration, not just any cruise. I have reserved a luxury suite package on one of the most prominent cruise lines. The program includes unique dining experiences, spa treatments, and private shore excursions. I'm inviting all of our extended family, my aunts, uncles, and cousins, as well as my close friends. The guest list contains approximately 50 people, all of whom have expressed an interest in my life and achievements over the years. But here's the kicker. I'm intentionally excluding my immediate family. The invitations have already been sent, and I have something special planned for the major celebration dinner. I'm going to show a slideshow, and not just any slideshow. I've accumulated images and memories of all the birthdays they missed, accomplishments they overlooked, and occasions they made me feel invisible. Each image will be accompanied by a related image of how they celebrated Alex or Sophia on similar occasions. Is this petty? Maybe. But it feels necessary. I've also prepared a presentation about our medical gadget project, not to brag, but to demonstrate what I've accomplished while my family was too preoccupied with Alex's medical career. The gadget has already been licensed for clinical trials, and preliminary findings indicate that it could lower cardiac death rates by up to 30%. This might potentially save thousands of lives. The word spread through the family grapevine, and the emotions have been intense. My Aunt Susan, who has always been more aware of family dynamics, immediately responded yes, and called to say she is proud of me for sticking up for myself. Several cousins have also offered their support, stating that they have noticed how I have been treated over the years but were unsure how to handle it. However, not everyone has been supportive. Some relatives describe me as petty and immature. My mother has been blowing up my phone, leaving voicemails alternating between guilt-tripping, "How could you do this to your mother after all we've sacrificed for you?" and threats. "You'll regret this behavior, young man." My father wrote his normal passive-aggressive text about how I am tearing the family apart and creating unnecessary drama. Alex called me childish and advised me to grow up and accept that some people just achieve more in life. Sophia wrote a cryptic, hostile social media post about attention-seeking behavior and toxic siblings who can't handle others' success. But my friends and Stephanie absolutely support me. My best friend from college, who has seen my family dynamics for years, said something that really resonated. "Sometimes it takes a great act to disrupt destructive patterns. You've attempted to talk to them quietly for years. Maybe they'll finally listen." Stephanie has been especially fantastic throughout this. She's helped me organize every aspect of the cruise, from the meals to the decorations. She reminded me that this isn't about vengeance, it's about finally standing up for myself and refusing to be the forgotten child any longer. Her encouragement has shown me what a good family dynamic should look like. The cruise is booked, invites have been sent, and there is no going back now. Most of the visitors have already said yes, with many expressing enthusiasm for both the event and what it represents. Some relatives are plainly split between wanting to support me and being concerned about the potential for conflict with my parents. Surprisingly, most people are still opting to come. I created a special Instagram hashtag for the event and began posting teases about the approaching celebration. My mother saw these posts, despite being blocked. She created a bogus account and called my aunt in tears, screaming that I was publicly humiliating the family. Everyone understands the hypocrisy of her now caring about family disgrace after years of publicly ignoring me. I understand that this may appear radical to some people. Perhaps it is. But after 28 years of being treated as an afterthought, of seeing my siblings lauded while I am disregarded, of having my accomplishments discounted and my feelings questioned, it seems necessary. This isn't just a birthday celebration anymore. It's about taking control of my story and telling my family that I'm not going to be the invisible middle child any longer. The cruise will set off in 3 weeks. Half of me is delighted to finally celebrate myself properly, but another half is concerned about the consequences. Some friends say I should have broken contact discreetly rather than making a statement, but I believe I needed to do so, not just for me, but for any middle kid who has ever felt ignored. Am I taking things too far? Should I have taken a less dramatic approach to this situation? The cruise is paid for, and the majority of guests have confirmed, but I'm still wondering if I'm burning bridges that I might wish to cross again in the future. I would welcome any suggestions, especially from individuals who have experienced similar familial situations. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since the cruise birthday celebration, and I need to tell you what happened because things have escalated beyond my expectations. The cruise itself was amazing. Almost everyone who had RSVP'd turned up, around 45 people in total, including the majority of our extended family and close friends. I presented my slideshow during the first night's welcome dinner in the ship's premium restaurant. The crowd fell silent as photos appeared on the screen. Empty chairs at my childhood birthday dinners juxtaposed with Alex's grandiose festivities. My overlooked academic successes next to Sophia's recognized occasions. What I didn't expect was my Aunt Carol to burst into tears halfway through, claiming she had never realized the enormity of the disparity. Several additional relatives stated that they had seen the unequal treatment but had not realized how systematic it was until they saw it set out chronologically. The presentation on my medical gadget project garnered a resounding response. My uncle Robert, who works in hospital administration, even approached me about deploying our monitoring system at his facility. It's funny how my professional accomplishments suddenly become impressive when validated by others. But this is where things became intense. On the second day of the vacation, my mother convinced the cruise line to let her board at our first port call. She stated she was a surprise visitor invited to the celebration. Security let her through because she had images of me on her phone that proved she was my mother. She stormed into our lunch gathering, mascara flying, yelling about how I was attempting to turn the family against her. "After all we've done for you?" she shouted in front of everyone. "You ungrateful and hateful child." Stephanie attempted to intervene, but my mother turned on her, accusing her of poisoning her son against his family. The big shock came when my normally quiet Aunt Margaret rose up and challenged my mother. "Helen," she continued firmly, "we have all seen you prefer Alex and Sophia for years. We said nothing since we did not want to intervene. But this is over now." Several more relatives joined in, expressing their own views on unfair treatment throughout the years. My mother left in tears, but the drama hadn't ended. That evening, Alex and Sophia carried out a concerted social media onslaught. They shared childhood images with notes criticizing ungrateful siblings and attention-seeking behavior. However, it backfired terribly. People began commenting with their own insights about how I had been handled differently throughout the years. The cruise lasted 3 more days, then something unexpected happened. Without my immediate family around, I experienced what genuine family support is like. My cousins shared anecdotes about their own experiences with partiality. Uncle James, whom I had always assumed was distant, confessed that he had followed my career via business publications and was truly happy of my accomplishments. When we returned, I saw over 30 missed calls from my parents and a lengthy email from my father. For the first time, he acknowledged the inequality in how they treated us, but in a way that made matters worse. We focused more on Alex because he was following the family medical tradition and on Sophia because she needed extra support. "You were always so independent and capable. We thought you didn't need the attention." The fallout has persisted. Yesterday, my mother arrived at my office, causing a disturbance in the foyer. She requested to meet with me, telling the security guard how I was breaking her heart and destroying our family. My colleagues witnessed the entire incident, and my supervisor later summoned me in to make sure I was okay. Surprisingly, He recounted his own experience breaking free from poisonous family dynamics and expressed his entire support. Stephanie's family has been fantastic throughout this. Her parents asked me over for supper last night and told me they consider me a member of their family. Her father even admitted that he wishes he'd had the fortitude to challenge his own family's partiality when he was young. The most unexpected development came from my younger relatives. Several of them have contacted me to say that seeing me stand up for myself has given them the confidence to handle similar difficulties in their own family relationships. My cousin Jenny even included our narrative into her psychology class presentation on family systems and partiality. Looking ahead, I've resolved to stick to the restrictions I've set. I'm not fully cutting off touch, but I'm no longer willing to be the forgotten child. I've blocked my siblings on social media and created email filters for my parents. My new policy is simple: I will only interact with family members who respect me and acknowledge their previous behavior. Stephanie and I are considering moving in together, possibly to a different city where her employer has an office. The distance may be beneficial, allowing everyone time to process and reflect. Thank you to everyone who has advised me on this problem. The trip may have appeared to be an extreme gesture, but it brought concerns to light that had been festering for decades. Sometimes you need a major moment to break old habits. The next post will most likely come after my parents' next wedding anniversary event, which I have already decided not to attend. Change is difficult, but important. Update 2. It has been 6 months since my last post, and I can't believe I'm writing this, but the situation has worsened much worse. What's the biggest news? Stephanie and I are engaged. What should have been a happy occasion has turned into another family drama. Following the cruise incident, I had little contact with my immediate family, preferring to focus on my relationship with Stephanie. The suggestion came at an ideal time, during a weekend trip to showcase our medical product at a healthcare conference. She's been my rock during all of this family drama. However, things turned ugly during our venue tour last weekend. We were touring our third potential wedding destination, a lovely historic building with a garden ceremony area. Halfway through the trip, I heard my mother's voice echoing down the corridor. They had somehow learned about our venue tour schedule. Later, I realized that my cousin Lauren had unintentionally disclosed it in the family group chat. My parents arrived with Alex and Sophia in tow, like some sort of intervention team. My mother immediately began telling the venue coordinator about her idea for the wedding, completely ignoring Stephanie and me. When I firmly said that they had not been invited and needed to leave, my mother burst into tears in front of the venue personnel and other couples who were visiting the space. What occurred next still seems strange. Alex, the responsible older brother, attempted to pull me away for a family discussion. When I declined, he remarked, "This is what happens when you let the middle child make important decisions." Sophia was shooting everything with her phone, perhaps for a dramatic social media post. The venue planner, bless her heart, quickly recognized the situation and had security escort them out, but not before my mother yelled that she would never forgive this betrayal, and that I was breaking your father's heart all over again. Here's the thing. They didn't just come across us. They had obviously planned this. They brought printed images from my childhood of good family occasions, which they planned to exhibit to the venue workers. My mother even brought her old wedding album and discussed family traditions that we needed to incorporate. After they left, we discovered that they had already visited our other 2 potential wedding locations earlier that week, informing the staff that they were the key decision makers. They even attempted to put down deposits to secure the dates. Stephanie was naturally shaken. Her family was appalled when they learned what had transpired. Her father, who is generally very polite, called my father immediately to inform him that their behavior was unacceptable. This sparked more controversy, with my father accusing Stephanie's family of stealing his son. We have recently chosen to drastically rethink our wedding arrangements. Neither of the venues on our original list will be used. We're now looking at venues outside of our area, and we've engaged a wedding planner who specializes in dealing with delicate family circumstances. She is putting in place stringent security measures and a thorough guest screening process. What's the silver lining to all of this? Our bond has only gotten stronger. Stephanie and I are more confident than ever that we are making the proper decision to begin our lives together away from poisonous family relationships. I've also received unexpected help from my colleagues. My employer, remembering the recent event at our office, has approved additional security measures at work. He has even volunteered to host our wedding on his vacation property if we choose a fully private setting. The difficult element isn't the drama itself. It's recognizing that my wedding day, one of life's most important occasions, is being turned into yet another battleground for my family's turmoil. But this time, I am not backing down. Stephanie and I deserve to spend our day the way we want. We're going forward with our plans, but with increased security and an extremely selective guest list. Our wedding will be a celebration of love and happiness, not just another stage for family drama. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I'd like to explain what happened at our wedding. This will be my final update since, following what happened, I've made a definitive choice about my family relationships. The wedding day began nicely. We found a stunning private estate 3 states away, hired security, and implemented stringent guest screening. Stephanie looked amazing, and our closest friends and selected family were present to support us. The morning preparations went well, and Stephanie's family made everyone feel loved and included. Despite all of our efforts, my mother was able to enter just as the officiant was about to begin the ceremony. The doors flew open, and my mother dashed down the aisle, my father trailing behind her like a reluctant shadow. What came next was bizarre. Instead of the standard "I object" moment, my mother launched a full-fledged show about how ungrateful I was. She had prints of family portraits, which she began handing to stunned guests as a bizarre wedding favor. What truly crossed the line was when she turned to Stephanie and remarked, "Good luck on this one. He's been bitter his entire life." But this is where things changed. Instead of letting this wreck our day, I finally mustered the courage to speak all I'd been holding back. I came up and quietly informed my mother, "This is not about you. It never was. This refers to your incapacity to love your children equally. Today is not about the past. It is about my future with Stephanie." The security team moved to escort my parents out, but my mother had not finished. She turned to the guests and began divulging sensitive family facts, attempting to embarrass me. That's when Stephanie's father intervened. He stepped between my parents and us, with serene power, saying, "You have made your point. Now, leave my children alone." The term "children" had a strong impact. In that moment, I understood I'd discovered what I'd been hunting for all along, a family willing to adore me. After being escorted away, something unexpected occurred. Several guests, even distant cousins who had watched my family's behavior over the years, spoke up to express their observations. My cousin's wife, a family therapist, discreetly informed me that my mother's behavior exhibited classic indicators of narcissistic family dynamics. We proceeded with the ceremony, which was magnificent. Stephanie's brother delivered a heartfelt tribute at the reception. He discussed how family is more than simply DNA, but also about individuals who celebrate your accomplishments and support you during difficult times. The next morning, my father called. For the first time in his life, he admitted their favoritism, but in a way that made everything plain. He responded, "We only pushed Alex and Sophia more since you were so capable on your own. You must understand, it was easy to concentrate on them." That was it. That admission of taking the easiest road rather than being fair parents solidified my decision. I'm done trying to understand or repair this connection. I'm over expecting they'll change or suddenly become the parents I needed. I have officially changed my phone number. Our new house address is not listed. I took a promotion that puts me in charge of our company's West Coast expansion, which means we'll be moving across the nation. Stephanie's employer also has an office there, and her family has already made plans to visit. The medical device initiative continues to save lives. Last week, we received statistics indicating that our technology had avoided over 200 possible cardiac incidents. Alex still works at the same hospital that rejected our device implementation proposal, which is ironic given that it could have helped his patients. Thank you to everyone who has been following my story. Your support gave me the courage to speak up for myself and set boundaries. To anyone dealing with similar family dynamics, you deserve to be honored, you deserve to be seen. Sometimes the family you choose is more significant than the one you were born into. This will be my final update because there is nothing else to say. I'm not angry anymore, I am not hurt, I'm just finished. My new family, Stephanie, her family, our friends, and those who truly care about us, is my primary priority right now. Walking away from a situation is sometimes the healthiest option. It is not about vengeance or punishment. It is about choosing serenity, joy, and surrounding oneself with others who actually appreciate your existence. Karen and her husband attacked me and stole my PS5 from my trunk, despite the fact that the box contained coal. An entitled Karen attacked me in the parking lot and grabbed what they thought was a brand new PlayStation 5 from my trunk. Unfortunately for them, in an unusual twist of destiny, what they stole was full to the brim with coal. I had every intention of giving it as a joke gift, and I've never felt better about getting back at someone in my life. This is what occurred. To provide context, my wife and I have a secret Santa custom that we follow every year. During the holidays, we look for a family in need or facing a difficult financial condition, and we offer holiday cheer by purchasing Christmas gifts for the entire family. We surprised them with the gifts on Christmas Day. This year, we chose a family with a young kid who was a straight-A student and desperately desired a PlayStation 5. I had planned to surprise him with it on Christmas Day. Another thing I discovered while gathering information about the family was that they had a Christmas ritual of delivering gag gifts and playing pranks. Naturally, I decided to participate in the fun. My plan was simple. In addition to the real PlayStation 5, I'd find a separate PS5 box and use it as a prank gift. I filled the box with charcoal, attached a letter that said "Psych" with a troll face, and made sure everything was safe by adding extra padding to keep the charcoal in place. After weeks of begging around, I located a friend who was ready to give me an empty PS5 box. I graciously accepted it and began to work on the gag gift. Now all that remained was to get the genuine PlayStation 5. This is where things took a surprising turn. I located a local gaming shop with one PlayStation 5 left in stock and went to buy it right away. On my way out of the store, I nearly hit an unpleasant, screaming woman and her husband. They surged by me, almost hitting me with the door, without even saying "excuse me." These people were quite disrespectful, but I decided to brush it off. When I got to my car, I placed the new PlayStation 5 behind the driver's seat. Before leaving, I wanted to get some Gatorade from the cooler I kept in the trunk. While retrieving it, I spotted the woman from before, with her husband in tow, approaching me quickly from the corner of my eye. The entitled Karen exclaimed, "Hey, excuse me, sir?" I cautiously turned my head to face her and her spouse. Can I help you?" I asked. "Are you the guy that bought the last PlayStation 5? The spouse inquired. Silently loathing myself, I responded, "Yes, that would be me." This is entitled Karen stared at me and said, "Well, I need you to give me the PlayStation 5. We really need it." I replied, "I'm sorry, but the PS5 is a charity gift for a Secret Santa that I'm doing." Karen responded, "Well, how about you be a Secret Santa to our kids and give us the system?" I firmly responded, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I can't do that." Her spouse remarked, "Dude, you can easily find another one at another store or a pawn shop nearby." "Why don't you guys just do that?" I countered. That's when Karen lost it. She began yelling, "Our time is valuable. We can't waste time looking around town for another one." I replied gently, "I'm sorry, but a lack of preparation on your part is not my problem." Before I could finish, Karen interrupted me, saying, Oh, don't give me the BS." The spouse then replied, "Okay, listen, I have $200 in my pocket. That's yours if you just give me the PlayStation 5. I informed him, "It cost me $400. Karen, clearly agitated, snapped, "For the love of God, just take the money." Before I could finish saying, "Sorry, that's not going to happen," my spouse gave me an unexpected shove. I'm a bigger guy, yet this threw me completely off guard. The shove knocked me to the ground, sending my spectacles flying off my face. As I struck the ground, the spouse said, "Grab the box." I dimly observed them reach into my car's trunk and remove the PlayStation 5 box. I scrambled to find my glasses and put them back on, just to watch the two of them speed across the parking lot to their car. I chased after them, but they were able to reach their vehicle and get inside before I could catch up. They rushed away as I stood there, filled with rage and disbelief at the audacity of what had transpired. A bystander approached to see if I was okay after the shove and offered to contact the police. I was so outraged that I decided to contact the police myself. I wanted to see if they could get the store to look through any CCTV tape for a license plate or anything beneficial. As I unlocked my car door to get my phone, I noticed something tucked in the back seat. The PlayStation 5 I had just purchased, still in its bag with the receipt. Confused, I opened the package for a sanity check and discovered the brand new PS5 still wrapped. I sat there for a minute, stunned by the entire scene. I had obviously seen the couple steal a PlayStation 5 box, but the one I had just bought was there in front of me. Then it dawned on me. The PS5 they confiscated was a gag gift. When I discovered this, I nearly died laughing, much to the surprise of the bystander who had come to check on me. I explained the scenario to him, and he chuckled too. He asked if I still wanted to call the police, but I opted not to. It was just a joke gift, after all, and I saw no reason to try to get it back. As I drove away, I felt another sense of disappointment, not because of the theft, but because I wouldn't be able to see the couple's astonishment when their child opened the dummy box and saw a bag of charcoal and a troll face. Even better, they would be unable to return anything because it had been stolen. Sure, I didn't get to deliver the funny gift myself, but knowing I could still spread Christmas cheer to a less fortunate youngster made it all worthwhile. I can't believe they did that to you. First and foremost, I would have called the police in that situation. That is something I would never overlook. Sure, you got off pretty lucky when they stole the gag gift, which is incredibly hilarious, but to be shoved to the ground like that? That surely warrants punishment. Overall, wonderful for you for finding a way out of this, because things could have been much worse. My best friend's fiancé confessed he loves me but still planned to marry her. I told her, she left him, and I'm helping her move on. My best friend and I have always been close, and I adore her. We're really open and honest with each other, about as close as two people can go without being romantically attached. We're even joking that we're wives, because we're so close. Because of her fastidious personality, we have already discussed random circumstances and how we would like the other to approach them. For example, if a guy asked one of us out, how would the other react? Or if we both developed affections for the same person. We've even discussed what would happen if one of us died. One of these situations involved the dreaded, if I had a boyfriend and he had feelings for you issue. The possibility of this happening has arisen several times over the years, with varied degrees of concern. We both thought that would be terrible, but we couldn't agree on how to deal with it. I've always claimed that I'd want to know regardless of the circumstances, but she insisted on not telling me. She has been adamant about this every time it comes up, regardless of how I phrase or change the circumstance. She made it abundantly apparent that she would never want to know. About 3 years ago, my best buddy began dating a guy. He was already a loose member of our friend group, so we both knew him. I didn't think much of him at first. He appeared cool, courteous, and respectful. He gradually grew more integrated into our group, and he got along with everyone. The guys in the group liked him, the girls were excited for my closest friend, and, most importantly, she was overjoyed. She had always wanted to be in love, and he seemed ideal for her. He treated her and everyone else with great respect. He and I got along great, but we never hung out one-on-one. Our conversations were primarily limited to small talk about music, work, and other casual topics, which occurred in group situations. He made similar efforts to connect with the other members of the group, and I always appreciated that he was interested in her life and the people she was close to. I've always been the odd one out among our group of pals. I missed a few classes in school, so the most of my pals are significantly older than me, and I've always been the baby of the group. While most of us attended to the same institution, I've never been interested in dating. Though I've had interest from men, I'm a daydreamer who is obsessed with my profession. My future goals do not include children, and may not even include marriage. The idea of love appeals to me, but I've always been content with myself and have never felt compelled to seek it out. This resulted in an ongoing joke among our friends about me dying alone, surrounded by dogs. It was innocent fun, and the guy joined in on the jokes. Over time, I observed that he was particularly concerned in my love life, urging me to follow my goals and take my time. My best friend always did the same thing, so I didn't think much of it. Until about 4 months ago, I met a man, 25 million, who utterly swept me off my feet. We'll call him Max because that is his name. It was very unexpected, he just swooped in, and we've had a lovely, fairy tale-like romance. Because of my lack of experience with relationships, I've spent a lot of time discussing my sentiments with my best buddy. She's pleased for me, offers advice, and is usually quite supportive. Her fiancé, let's call him Guy, is often present during these chats and occasionally contributes. Everything seemed wonderful and awesome until Guy started acting strangely. We'd be hanging out as a group, and I'd relate a tale about Max. Guy would suddenly act strangely, informing me that seemingly typical things Max did were red flags. For example, when Max unexpectedly came up to take me stargazing late at night, which I appreciated because I enjoy surprises and work in astronomy, Guy went on about how hazardous it was for me to go alone, blah, blah. Guy has always been polite, supportive, and considerate to others. His judgment is so respected that my best friend began to question Max's intentions solely because Guy expressed doubts. Meanwhile, all of my other pals thought Max sounded fantastic and dismissed Guy's conduct as strange. During this time, Guy told me that he planned to marry my closest friend. I was ecstatic for them and pledged to keep it a secret. He told me because he wanted advice on the ring and how my best friend wanted to be proposed to. Everything appeared fine until it wasn't. The tipping point occurred when Max met my friends for the first time. Everyone liked him, and he appeared to get along with everybody. Max and Guy were speaking off to the side when Guy abruptly dropped his drink on the table and walked out of the pub. My best friend became perplexed and pursued him, while I approached Max to find out what had happened. Max appeared shocked. He told me that Guy had been performing the big brother thing, which he had learned from a number of the guys in the group. The majority of them were joking around, but Guy was much more serious. He stormed out after Max expressed how serious he was about me. Max told him that there was no need for concern because he would never injure me. Later on, Max speculated that Guy might be envious. I was hesitant because Guy had never done or said anything to indicate that he had affections for me. He'd always treated me the same as the rest of the group, despite the fact that we spent more time together because I frequently visited him and my closest friend's house. I decided I'd had enough of the stress and messaged Guy. First, I inquired if he was okay. Then I stated I hoped things was okay amongst us all. The conversation went as follows. My response: "Is everything okay? I hope we're good." The gentleman: "It's not cool. I don't trust that guy." You: "Do you mind if I ask why not?" Specifically: "No one else has bad vibes. Everyone even invited him to the beach tomorrow." Guy: "What are you saying?" He looks at you funny. "I can't explain it properly. You've known me a while. You know I have your best interests at heart. Trust me on this. I understand that you can't help but get bad vibes, but no one else does. I'm sorry, but I need more than trust me to go on. While I appreciate your concern, I'm capable of making my own mistakes, and I don't think this is one. It would mean a lot to me if you could try to get along with him to make it easier for him to fit in. I plan on keeping him around for a while, and, best friend, wants to do double dates and stuff. You're going to run into him eventually." Guy replies: 1. Double dates sound lame. 2. Even if they didn't, I don't want him to come. I say: 1. Take that up with your lady. 2. Do you really not like him that much? He responded: "Okay, he seems alright, but kind of weird. How can a theater kid be so alpha? It's more that I'm jealous." My response was: "I resent the notion that theater guys can't be manly. But also, the group is really tight, and everyone really likes you. You've been one of us for years now. Max got a lot of attention tonight because he's the new guy. I'm sorry if you felt excluded, but I promise it's really not like that." He didn't respond for a long, then sent this. He said: "I've been thinking very carefully about how to phrase this message. I don't want you to think I don't love best friend, because I do, very much, but I'm also in love with you and have been for about 2 years. When I realized, I thought about breaking up with best friend, but you were always so in your own world. I thought I'd never have a shot anyway, especially if I was your BFF's ex. I pushed it down and lived with it. It was hard, it sucked. I got over it, Kai. I figured that if I couldn't be with you, I could at least be happy with best friend, and close to you. Then you met Max, and watching you begin to fall in love with him was the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. I know this is cliché and theatrical. I know it's wrong, and I should just not say anything about him, but I genuinely feel sick when you talk about him. I can't tell you how much I wanted to strike the guy last night, and then how bad I felt about it when I learned he was actually a nice guy. I believe the only thing worse than you being with another guy is you being with another guy I like. Sorry for offloading this onto you. I know it's unfair to do this now. I do love best friend, you know I do. I want to marry her. I would rather you didn't tell her, but what happens next is up to you, I guess. You. If this is a joke, it's not funny. Can you please tell me the truth?" He replied: "Sorry, but that is the truth. What are you going to do?" I have not responded to him. He then sent me a few more texts, asking what I was going to do. I said, "I'm thinking." Small edit. Since I posted this, he has sent several more messages wondering what I was going to do. I told him I hadn't made up my mind, but I also made it apparent that I didn't reciprocate his feelings. I am devastated, and my feelings are nothing compared to how best friend would react if she knew. I want to tell her so badly. I know if I were in her situation, I would want to know. The last thing I want is to marry someone who isn't open with me about something like this. But when we joked about this situation earlier this year, she insisted she didn't want to know. I understand it is not my responsibility, but I still feel bad. I'm wondering if I did anything to provoke Guy's reaction, and if I can even continue to pretend he never said anything. His affections have never been reciprocated. Max was with me when I received the message and has been incredibly supportive, albeit a little annoyed with Guy for obvious reasons. Send help. Summary. Best friend and Guy met 3 years ago. He fit right in with our group of friends, got along with everyone, and was overall a pleasant person. Life continued on. They moved in together, and I was overjoyed for her. He is everything she has ever wanted. Then I met what seemed to be my dream boyfriend. Everyone was pleased for me, except Guy, who became quite standoffish and strange about it. I don't think much about it. Guy wants to marry my closest friend and asks me for advice. Awesome. After Max and Guy meet for the first time, things quickly escalate. Guy begins messaging me that he is in love with me but wants to marry my best friend and only be in love with me in the shadows. His sentiments for me are not returned in the slightest. I need to discuss this, Reddit. Should I tell her? Should I keep this to myself? I am upset at Guy. I feel dreadful. I feel terrible for my dearest friend. I'm not sure if I can face her in the eyes while she marries this person. I'm not sure I can let her marry him without her knowing all the facts. I'm overwhelmed. Please give me some advice. Update. Sorry, this will probably grow long. It does. There were many differing ideas on what to do, and many of you had very good reasons for your suggestions. However, there appeared to be a consensus. 1. This sucks, and there is no ideal answer, and 2. Everyone seemed to agree on the letter idea, which had been presented by a couple of people. The gist was that I should write a letter, add screen caps, and then give her the information. That way, she would have some control over whether or not she wanted to know. I have to admit that telling her there was something to know felt like I was forcing her to open it. But this is what happened. I made the envelope and went to her house while Guy was working, or just to hang out. Typical things. Reddit, I'm not a bad actress, but this woman knows me very well. She answered the door for me and instantly asked what was wrong. To my everlasting shame, I burst into tears. It was quite pitiful of me and not great. Ugh. After I had collected myself, I began saying what I had been practicing in my brain. That was something we'd discussed a lot in hypothetical scenarios, and it had actually occurred. She'd always stated she didn't want to know, but I wanted to give her the option. I handed her the letter. Then, without even opening it, she started crying, which prompted me to restart. That was okay since the absurdity of us both standing in her living room crying all over each other made us giggle a little. Many others assumed she had noticed or understood Guy's feelings, and they were completely correct. But it gets crazier than that. I honestly cannot believe I'm describing this. It's simply odd. I do not know. My closest friend had assumed Guy had a harmless little crush on me, the kind that people in partnerships sometimes have. But when he didn't tell her about it, she began to feel uncomfortable. She did something she should not have. You know how it goes, she snooped. She snooped on his PC months ago and discovered a file with my initials buried among a slew of other documents. She went to get his laptop and handed it to me to read as she read my letter. Inside, he had written stories, similar to fan fiction, about the three of us living a poly-relationship lifestyle as spouses. Some of it was sexual content, which, I think I would understand more if it had only been sexual fantasies. However, there were also really long records about our lives together. It also goes deep. There was a whole storyline about him attempting to persuade me to have children. I love them, but I don't have children, and everyone knows it. There were many stories of varying lengths. I didn't read them all. Instead, I browsed them with my mouth hanging wide. It's difficult to express. It was strange to read about myself like that. There were newer docs that my closest friend hadn't read yet. She went on to say that she didn't mind because she was in all of the articles as well. That reassured her of his love for her, but having me in their lives in that way was clearly not ideal for her. She was disturbed by the way he had spoken to me in the previous day's messages and those he had sent since. I asked her many questions, including whether she felt safe. She stated she did. When I asked her what she wanted to do, she stated she wanted to leave him. She also apologized for not informing me earlier. While it bothers me that she didn't, given what transpired later, I've basically forgiven her and put any discussion about it on hold. She doesn't need it right now. I've been so glad that she wasn't upset with me for busting her bubble and was more concerned about her that it appears to be a secondary issue. This was not one of the things I expected to happen during my vacation. The subject then moved to me being concerned about her safety. While he does not appear to be dangerous, his conduct is quite compulsive, and he is clearly irritated that his fantasy is growing more and more distant from reality with Max in the picture. I'm also concerned about Max's safety. I'm not sure if I'm being rational or paranoid. She continuously assured me that she felt absolutely protected. She claims he has never done anything but this, which is a red sign, but she still wants to leave. She is naturally cautious, so she is taking extra precautions. Then she stood up and began packing her bags, giving me normal, business-like orders on what items she wanted me to gather from around the home. She filled her suitcases, and I packed a box with her personal belongings. She then wrote a note to Guy stating that she no longer thought they should be together and that she would discuss it with him via messaging or in person a few days later in a public area. She assured me of the plan. This is when I may have done something wrong, I'm not sure. I have a pen drive on my keychain. I told her I needed to grab copies of the articles because, even if she doesn't believe it would happen, we need something to prove his compulsive behavior. She consented, And I now have a pen drive filled with stories and playlists about myself. My best friend and her ex, I'm not going to lie, I've been tempted to read the stories out of morbid curiosity, but I've managed to resist so far. We went to my apartment first to decide what to do next. Her feelings were understandably mixed. I then got a call from Max and filled him in. He advised we stay with him because Guy doesn't know where he lives. However, my best friend preferred to stay in a nearby motel. We paid for it with my car, and after I hovered nervously over her as she settled in, she finally declared she wanted to be alone. That is not uncommon for her when she is upset. I've been visiting her, and she's been messaging me the entire time. So I'm very certain about where her brain is. Sad, but coping well given everything. Still, I can't help but be worried. I'll remain with Max till things settle down. Since approximately 5 p.m. That night, 2 nights ago, I received messages from Guy. They are the I just want to talk sort, not aggressive or anything. I was about to block him on everything, but my best friend persuaded me not to since she was concerned about his mental health. For the time being, I'm staying at Max's as a precaution. Guy has attempted to communicate with both me and her, but the only reaction he has received is to read the note she left him again. Finally, thank you to everyone who left a remark, especially those who wrote a lot, gave great advice, sent me good vibes, or PM'd me. You people were fantastic, and I appreciate all of your feedback. My husband is cheating on me with my best friend, betraying both our marriage and my trust in the most painful way. I'm honestly not sure where to start, so I guess I'll just start. My husband and I have been dating since I was 19 and he was 22. We've been married for 6 years now. We have 2 kids and I'm 6 months pregnant with our third. 2 years ago I found out my dad has stage 3 colon cancer. My dad is my only parent as my mom passed away when I was 12. He's my favorite human and life without him doesn't seem as colorful. His laugh is contagious and he gives these big bear hugs that seem to make all of your broken pieces feel like they're perfectly in place again. Whenever I've had a hard day he doesn't poke and prod and just lets me vent and listens. About 5 months ago we discovered the treatments aren't working for him and in direct quote from the doctor he said months not years. Since then he's gotten progressively worse and now is losing memory. He looked at the dog he got for me on my 21st birthday and said, "Wow, that's a nice dog. Where'd you get it?" My husband has been my absolute rock. He has been there for me holding my hand and helping me through this. He's been so loving and attentive to both my kids and I. Don't get me wrong, I am a mother first always. I don't allow myself to wallow. My kids are still loved, cared for, played with, and I haven't let my load slack around the house. Once my dad got his updated prognosis, my husband encouraged me to quit my job. About a month later we discovered we were pregnant again and I still hadn't let go of my job. I kept holding out for some reason. After finding out I was pregnant again he assured me it was still okay to quit my job, that honestly it would save us a small fortune on daycare costs anyways. So I did, I quit my job. My best friend and I have been friends since diapers. Her family is like my family and vice versa. My mom and her mom grew up together. We've always been solid and right after my dad's appointment when we found out he had so little time left I drove straight to her house and she held me while I cried for hours. If there are soulmates in friend form, she was mine. Thick as thieves, is what my mom used to say. This morning as I was up with my 3-year-old, he's sick, my husband's work alarm was going off. He has a few he sets so I turned that one off and gently woke him up. He said he was up late working so he took the morning off. Rolled over and went back to sleep. As I went to turn off the remainder of his alarms I saw a text from my friend on his lock screen that said, "I'm assuming since there hasn't been an angry pregnant lady on my doorstep you haven't told her about us yet?" Time froze at that moment. I took his phone and walked away and just read their conversations. 4 months this man has been fucking my best friend. 4 months these people have been lying to my face. And I know what you're going to say, you should have seen the warning signs. But I've been clutching this phone in my hand for 2 hours and nothing. He has been so loving and attentive to me, but he always has been. So kind and gentle. There have been no late night work nights except for once in a blue moon, there has been no lingering touches between them or even glances. They act as they have since the day I first introduced them. How sick is it that she calls him her brother but she screws him? I know so many people get a moment of clarity in situations like this but I have none. Aside from being sad about my dad, I haven't changed. I'm still a loving wife and mother. I still doted on him and my children. I talk to him about how he is doing and how his day is every freaking day. I haven't allowed the ground to swallow me whole. I know what I have to do now, but I just don't want to. I'm about to lose my family and my support system in one blow. I'll confront him tomorrow. Today Today I just need this last 24 hours of peace. As for her, I won't give her the satisfaction of a response. I don't care why she did it. She did it and it's done. I was always the friend who cleaned up her messes. After today I will cut her out of my life like she never mattered at all. This has to be the hardest storm I'll ever weather, but damn it I know it'll sail through it. If not for me, for my children. Update 1. A small update about everything going on since my kids are now in bed for the night. I spent the morning gathering everything I could and making a checklist. I sat in my office for the better part of the morning telling my husband that I was preparing things for my dad. Not a total lie. I did have to get him sorted with hospice today. My boss would be happy to have me back, however my lawyer said pump the brakes on that idea for the time being. However, my old boss did tell me that whenever I'm ready, the door is open and to just give her a call. He does not have access to my inheritance from my father, nor my mother. My lawyer assured me that. I didn't mention her in the post, but my mother-in-law is an absolute angel. I love and adore her so much, and she's always been a shoulder to lean on. After he had gone to work for the afternoon, I asked my now ex-best friend's mom and my mother-in-law to meet me at my dad's house. My kids were outside playing with my now ex-BFF's older brother. I just handed them the screenshots, saving them from the unsavory pictures and sex tape, though I did tell them it existed. To say they were furious was an understatement, and they are on my side completely. Angie, my now ex-BFF's mom, is ready to cut contact with her daughter completely. She kept repeating how sorry she was. We hugged and cried together. My mother-in-law told me she couldn't believe she raised a spineless, terrible human. That no matter what happens I will always have her, and as far as she's concerned she doesn't have a son, only a daughter. After an in-person meeting with my lawyer we went over finances, logistics, and everything you could think of. She has all of the proof and she's out for blood. With this post now on TikTok I don't want him to find out by an app because one look at the story and he'd know it was about him. With permission from my lawyer. My ex-BFF, her mom and dad, my soon-to-be ex and his parents will be having a get-together tomorrow. By the time they're sitting down and showing them everything and that I know. My dad, my kids and my ex-BFF's brother, he's coming to help me juggle the kids, and my dad, being big and pregnant doesn't help with mobility, will be at my dad's cabin a few hours away enjoying time and space. I know a lot of people were hoping for me to get revenge or do psychological warfare, but honestly after my kids went to bed I took a shower and just broke. I don't have the strength or energy to dish anything out. I just want out. Pretending like everything was okay today was too exhausting and I just don't want to do it. Once he finds out tomorrow I'll update with the aftermath, as I'm sure it will be huge. As for now, thank you all so much for your kindness, warmth and support. Truly. Your words have helped give me the strength to keep my head above water. I appreciate every single last one of you for everything. Update 2. For my typing's sake, I'm going to give everyone fake names, so for context, mother-in-law and father-in-law, Ruth and Joe, ex-best friend forever parents. Angie and Bob, ex-best friend forever. Jess, soon-to-be ex-Tyler. Ex-best friends forever brother, Jake. And I'll just refer to my dad as Dad. I have a few things I want to get through, so I'll just summarize as best as I can, and if you have any questions I'll answer in the comments. To get this out of the way, because to me it feels important. Yesterday I scheduled a same-day appointment with my obstetrician gynecologist and got tested for just about every STD/STI out there. I got the results back and they were all negative. There's a few that take up to 2 weeks to get the results back for, so I'll be waiting on those. When I met with my lawyer I bought everything on my end financially wise, including the wills from both my dad and my mom, and I managed to get my hands on his financial documents. He stores his in his office in a locked box. I also brought over everything we had set up financially for my children. While I'm not totally sure if it's everything, I'm pretty confident I got most of it. My lawyer was happy I managed to get my hands on that much. Ruth even handed over her will to me from both her and Bob to ensure I was taken care of in the divorce. My lawyer understands I am wanting a divorce immediately. However, she wants to make sure she is thorough and isn't missing any key info. So hopefully I'll have actual divorce papers to give him in about 30 days. I'm not rushing her though, I'm letting the professional do her job. Now for the sit down. I asked Angie and Ruth to describe everything in detail on what happened. Angie, the revenge seeker that she is, forced them to sit through a slideshow she put together of all of the texts. I know a lot of you were concerned about one of them telling them sooner than later, but they were so secretive they didn't even tell their significant others about what was happening. Once the slideshow ended, Tyler tried lunging for Jess and Joe actually had to force him to sit down. Tyler was shouting profanities at Jess and telling her she will regret this. Jess started crying and begging her parents for forgiveness. Bob looked his daughter in the eye and told her he will never forgive her for this. Blood or not, she is no daughter of his. He didn't raise his daughter to be this person. Jess was always a daddy's girl, so I think that cut her pretty deep. Jess is in the middle of a divorce herself, and her parents were giving her money for her lawyer, and they told her she is cut off from them both financially and physically. Tyler's dad was irate. According to Ruth, he looked like he was holding back on throttling him. From there, Tyler went straight home. I know because we have a Ring doorbell camera along with a few cameras in the house for our kids to keep an eye on them when we aren't right next to them. Tyler came home and saw that most of mine and the kids' stuff was gone, and he lost it. Started yelling and throwing things. The house is now trashed with a few holes in the walls for decoration. When he didn't find us there, he went to my dad's. While I did spend most of the day, he was at work packing and moving things into my dad's house. We were already at his cabin. Tyler took a baseball bat to my dad's door, trying, and failing, to break it down. My dad's neighbor actually called the cops on him and he was arrested. His parents refused to bail him out. I had an appointment with my therapist today. I've had one for a year now since I was struggling with my dad, and it felt good to just cry it out and let everything out about how I was feeling. It was very helpful, and she gave me a few tools to work through my emotions with this one. I felt very grounded and empowered leaving my session today. I'm also planning on setting up my children with a therapist when we get back from the cabin to figure out the best way to deal with telling them. I know people said I shouldn't, but I will be telling them, just in an age-appropriate way. I don't want there to be secrets and lies between us. I've always been as open and honest as I can with them, again in the most kid-appropriate way. Just because they're small humans, they're still humans and still deserve the truth. I had a handful of comments telling me I should stay and every man cheats. I should work things out because most of our marriage was good. I refuse to believe all men cheat. My parents were married for 20 years, and after my mom passed, my dad never moved on. I watched my dad love my mom for 12 of those years and cherish her. I will not accept anything less than that kind of love. He never cheated, nor did she. While I'm not sure when I'll be ready to move on, falling in love is the absolute last thing on my mind at the moment. I refuse to let Tyler win and destroy love for me completely. I will move on from this. Jess started blowing up my phone demanding I fix this situation and immediately blaming me. My lawyer told me to not block texts just in case they spill out additional info I was missing. She was playing the poor me card very hard. The thing is though, I never influenced Angie and Bob to cut contact with their daughter. They made that choice on their own. She actually started blaming me for stealing the love of her life. I introduced them when Tyler and I started dating, so not sure where that came from, and that Tyler is only with me for the kids. Honestly, I knew she was just trying to hurt me at that point. I didn't give her the satisfaction of responding though. Between her and Tyler I have about 200 missed calls. Tyler went from begging and pleading me to forgive him. Like I said, I didn't have divorce papers to hand him, so he's stuck in this unknown gray area. I also asked Angie and Ruth to not say anything about the divorce to him yet. Purely just for my satisfaction, honestly. I know it's slightly petty, but keeping him in that gray area of not knowing is my small revenge to him. To threatening to call the cops on me for kidnapping, telling me Jess wasn't the only one, bingo, just what I was looking for, to telling me I'm a stuck-up bitch, to threatening me, to back to begging me for forgiveness. Honestly, it was just a whiplash reading those texts. I'd be lying if I said that those texts didn't hurt me and terrify me all at once, but I refuse to let them break me. As for both of them together, I don't think he's going to stay with her. I think he blames her for blowing up our marriage, honestly. Who knows though, they deserve each other. I was initially okay to do a 50-50th split with Tyler for custody, but after his reaction I don't feel comfortable with that, so I'll likely be going for full custody. Jake has about 30 days of leave he's saved up, and he's going to be using them to help the kids and I get settled at my dad's house, and honestly to be there in case Tyler tries showing up going crazy again. He's been such a big help to the kids and I lately, and I'm forever in his debt for this. Last night after the kids went to bed, he hooked up his Xbox and we played a game called Diablo 4 together to help me take my mind off of things. It was fun. However, he did sort of confess that he's always had feelings for me somewhere in the midst of things, but also told me to not say or do anything back. He understands a relationship or anything like that isn't on my mind and won't be for a while. He isn't wrong, but just that he's felt that way since we were teenagers and just wanted to get it off his chest. Thank you again. Seriously, your comments, your support, your messages, all of it has been one giant breath of fresh air. Just knowing I have a whole online community willing to go to bat for me has kept me treading water these last couple days. Your comments have popped in my head when I felt like just giving up on leaving him because it's so hard, and gave me so many great points and helpful advice. I know I deserve more and I can't accept his actions. And to the people who commented relating to my situation, my heart goes out to you all. This pain is awful and I hate that so many of you can relate, but your stories have resonated deep within me. You all keep commending me for my strength and my personal favorite is telling me how proud of me you are. Every time I see those words I start to tear up. I'm blaming the pregnancy hormones, but your words have helped put me at ease so that way I could do what I knew I needed to do. So I'll leave this here for now. If anything of importance happens when I go back home I'll update further. Thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Questions in the comments. Hobbit Bones. I'm sure many of us would like to know, have you told your lawyer that you want to go for full custody? And have you saved those messages your soon-to-be ex said with threats toward you and your children? I'm sure you have since you saved screenshots of messages the first time. You've handled this really well. You've done all the right things to gather evidence and protect yourself. I'm proud of you. And I really wish the best for you and your children. OP answer. I forwarded everything to her as well as telling her he was arrested and she responded with, full custody. And I agreed. Thank you, truly so much. A comment deleted after an overwhelming number of downvotes faulted OP for taking her kid's father away from them. To this OP replied, I'm not taking away their father. I will not keep them from him at all. But yes, I will most likely go for full custody. Not out of bitterness or spite because I could simply never be that person. There is zero excuse for punching holes in walls, and trying to break down my dad's door, threatening to unalive me, unalive our children. If he wants to see them I will allow supervised visits. Maybe in the future if he gets therapy and help for those thoughts and actions I'll allow it. For now my mind is made up. You may see it as running away, but I see it as taking space to comprehend what has happened to my life and allow myself breathing room. My entire future I had carved out for myself and my children has exploded right in front of my face. That deserves breathing room. And yes, I allowed others to confront what they did to me, simply because I don't have the mental capacity. My focus is on my kids and my dad, everything else is background noise. Honestly, even if I did confront them myself, my in-laws and ex-friends' parents would have had their own confrontation regardless. I am fully aware I will have to face the music one day. However, today is not that day and I plan on enjoying that for the time being. People doubted if OP's story was true as the break between updates was quite short, with comments like, all this in 1 day and a half. To which OP replied, my doctor's appointment took an hour at max, most OBs do same-day appointments for urgent reasons. I just moved clothing, some toys and any of my important things to my dad's which is 15 minutes away from my home with help from quite a few people. To be honest it wasn't even a lot of stuff to move anyways. It all fit in the bed of my father-in-law's pickup. I was lucky that a lawyer had a same-day opening spot and gathered documents that are all stored in one spot because I keep them organized. I already have weekly virtual therapy sessions which just so happened to be today which was an hour. All I did was give my in-laws and ex-BFF's parents the screenshots and saw them for about 2 hours before I headed home. Which I usually spend time with my dad in the evenings so he was fully aware of where I was, but I asked him to stay home and start dinner instead of coming. And drive to a cabin. I found out yesterday around 6-7 a.m. Do people not understand how little actually happened? Jess, I was hoping it wasn't you when I saw this on TikTok, but obviously it is you, Kirsten. I told you to break up with him. I told you Tobias was in love with me. You refused to listen. I told you my husband left me because he was cheating, but it was because Toby told me we could run away together and we could be together. You ruined everything and now he won't speak to me. You need to clean your mess up instead of posting on socials being a pathetic POS. You're unbelievable. Did you think I wouldn't see this and find out? I hope you miscarry. Technical_pumpkin_65s, also somebody in OP's life, reply to Jess? Are you serious, Jade? Apparently Jess's real name. Coming here and playing the victim, you disgusting fake human being. Not only that, but you expose yourself by telling the real names. Now everyone will know it's you and your entourage. You are so jealous and have a huge obsession with Kirsten that you ruined your own life after all the mess you created. It's obvious Toby never loved you but just wanted to use you for his pleasure. There is nothing more easier to manipulate than a jealous freak who has an obsession with him. If he really wanted to run away with you he would have done it a long time ago, but he lied to your face with the one big excuse ever, I stay for the kids. Ha ha ha, you are the clown. Well **** here, not victim. That's why even your own parents cut you out from their lives too. You are such a shame as a woman, but also as a human being. You pretend to befriend and betray not only her but your family and your own husband. Can't wait to hear what will happen to you when more people will know around you. You will finally receive the treatment you deserve, especially after wishing her to lose her baby. Karma will do his job now. OP's reply to Jess: you told me to break up with him when I was 19 and you were engaged to another man. You never said why. You never said anything about him, because if you did I never would have been married and you would have been cut out sooner. Also, no, I put fake names in the post to protect your identities, but if you want to blast yourself to the public, that's your choice, not mine. Update 3. Hi everyone. I know a lot of people are still asking for an update. Not much has happened, but here are the things that have happened. Tyler discovered the post and asked me if I was seeking a divorce. I said I was. He apologized for losing his cool. Asked if there was any hope for reconciliation. I said no. We did have a conversation about the kids, and he'll be allowed to see them with supervision, to which he agreed to. I had another meeting with my lawyer. Nothing of major importance happened. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, has happened with Jake. He didn't take back his confession, but as I said, it's on the back burner for a long while. My kids' health and well-being take priority over all else. My dad's health is on a steady decline. He's now in the hospital with no release date in the immediate future. Please send over thoughts and well wishes his way. My kids are adjusting well. We have a therapy appointment for them scheduled next week to help them. My oldest has more questions than the rest, but I'm trying to save any big conversations for the therapy appointment, so I know I'm conveying the answers in a meaningful and the least harmful way. Also, my oldest made tryouts for the traveling soccer league. Yay. Oh, and the baby is doing great. Things have calmed down a lot. Truly. I feel like I have a better grip on things. I've been putting most of my focus on my dad and kids to keep myself busy. Thanks you friends for the love, support, and for checking in. New update. Hey everyone. I'm still getting daily messages and comments for an update, so here is what could possibly be my final one. My dad passed away about a week after my last update. I knew it was coming, but it still feels like a gut punch. Thank you to everyone who kept him in your thoughts. Truly. My marriage has officially ended. Once Tyler, I believe that's the fake name I assigned to him, please don't call me out if it's not, it's been a while, discovered just how serious I was about leaving him, he became compliant and was willing to give me everything I asked for in the divorce. So my lawyer opted for a dissolution versus divorce. The process is a lot quicker and goes smoothly. As of right now, I have full custody while he works out his anger management and whatnot with therapy. I'm not sure if I'll ever trust him again with the kids, but I'm also in therapy, as are my kids. I'm not making any decisions at all right now when it comes to that. He gets supervised visits at a facility where there is an army of staff and security and someone is there at all times. That's once a week, and he does get video calls twice a week. The kids are adjusting pretty well. There are days when I think it affects them more, but they've suffered some big losses, so it's to be expected. I did decide to give the baby my dad's first name though. It just felt right. But the baby is doing so very well and is thriving despite the amount of stress I've had going on. I'm managing as best as I can with everything going on. I miss my dad like crazy and I'm still trying to figure out how to exist in a world where he doesn't. The grief still is so very heavy. I'm still mourning my marriage as well. I don't regret leaving him, but it still hurts me deeply. However, I'm picking up the pieces and making my life whole without him. My mother-in-law, well, ex-mill now I guess. I don't know, it still feels weird. And Angie helped me out so much. They've really allowed me to lean on them in these moments. Whether it be taking the kids for a little while or cooking dinner for us when I don't have the energy. I truly am so lucky to have them. And finally, to what you all have been waiting to hear about, Jake. Jake is now back in California. He tried extending his leave but the military said no. It was truly wonderful having him there and helping me. In the first few days after my dad's passing, he picked up so much slack for me that I will truly never be able to repay him for it. He is so patient and kind. That being said, nothing has happened between us. Though he did hold me while I broke down after the kids went to bed quite a few times. But that's the extent of it. No kissing or anything like that. He does call me and text me multiple times a day. Right now I just don't have any room in my life for romance. I have so much grief and the weight of being a single mom has been heavy. He hasn't pushed me on it either. He let me know that he meant every word he said and that he's willing to just be my friend until I decide I want more, if I ever decide I want more with him. I wish I could be the girl that jumps in with both feet, but the betrayal from my ex is still fresh and I'm worried I would burn anything out before it started. So I asked for friends and time to process everything else in my life before I even consider processing a new relationship. He happily agreed. Oh, and Tyler and Jess are not a couple. Most of you were right, he left her high and dry. Though I don't wish misery on anyone, I'd be lying if I didn't say I get the smallest amount of satisfaction that her life went up in smoke. She's been blacklisted from her family. And I know a lot of you said it's weird that her parents did that, but if you guys knew just how deep my bond went with that family, it wouldn't seem weird at all. Angie is like my surrogate mom. She gave me the safe sex talk, the period talk. She listened to me cry about the boys who broke my heart. She held my hand while I delivered my kids. When she talks about me, she calls me her daughter. She knew my mom for practically her whole life. She held my mom's hand when she delivered me, and if anything had happened to both of my parents, she's who I would have gone to live with. My parents had that in their will. So with all of that being said, please just be kind to me in the comments. I put this off for a few days because of how hostile some people were, and the prospect of being called a liar doesn't sound too appealing at the moment. Again, I can't thank you for the amount of light and love I've received from you. I promise I read every comment and message. I just haven't had the capacity to respond. You have really helped brighten my days with all of your words of encouragement. I appreciate you all. I am so lucky to have an army of internet friends. You guys are the best. Mother-in-law ruined my wedding by spiking my drink, then tried to buy my forgiveness with $5K. Now we're left to navigate the fallout. My mother-in-law secretly spiked my drink at my wedding, causing me to faint and ruin the reception. Now she's trying to buy my forgiveness with $5,000 because my husband has made his decision. Hi everyone, I'm Rachel, 27F, and I just got married a week ago to my wonderful husband Jaden, 32M. The wedding felt like something straight out of a telenovela. This whole journey began 2 years ago at a local coffee shop. I was a regular there, always needing my morning caffeine fix to start the day. One day, I noticed a tall guy with kind eyes standing in line behind me. He seemed nice, but to be honest, I wasn't really paying much attention. All I could think about was getting my hands on a latte. Later that same week, I bumped into him again, and this time, we ended up chatting while waiting for our coffees. We talked about everything. Our favorite books, weird childhood stories, and even our mutual love for that cozy little coffee shop. We laughed a lot, and for the first time that day I felt truly awake. Looking back, I realized that I was quick to judge at first, perhaps because I was so absorbed in my routine or because Jaden wasn't the kind of guy I typically gravitated toward. But that day, something shifted in me. There was a genuine kindness in him, a warmth in his smile that I couldn't ignore. We exchanged numbers, and that very night, Jaden texted me, asking if I wanted to grab dinner sometime. We ended up going to this tiny Italian place hidden away on a side street. The food was incredible, but the best part was our conversation. We talked for hours, and it felt effortless. We discovered we had a surprising amount in common: a love for old movies, a secret passion for karaoke, even though neither of us is very good, and a shared obsession with tacos. Over the next few weeks, we started seeing more and more of each other. We went on hikes, explored museums, and even tried, and failed, to take a pottery class together. The more time I spent with Jaden, the more I realized how special he was. He was funny, intelligent, supportive, and always knew how to make me smile. He pushed me to be a better person and made me feel like I could be completely myself around him. Then, on our second anniversary, Jaden surprised me with the most incredible proposal. We were on a weekend getaway to a charming cabin in the mountains. It was snowing softly outside, and we were cuddled up by the fireplace when Jaden got down on one knee and pulled out a ring. I don't even remember exactly what he said because all I could focus on was the love shining in his eyes. Of course, I said yes. As soon as we got back from our cabin trip, I dove into planning the wedding with so much excitement. But this is where things took an unexpected turn. After Jaden and I got engaged, I met his mom, Maria, 57, for the first time. She lived a bit out of town, so we hadn't had the chance to meet before. At first, Maria was incredibly sweet to me. She talked about how thrilled she was to finally have a daughter-in-law. Jaden was her only child, and she mentioned that she had always wanted more children, so having me join the family felt like a big deal to her, almost like gaining another child. She even hugged me warmly and said she couldn't wait to get to know me better. However, things began to change rather quickly. That weekend, Maria came to stay with us to help with some wedding planning and to spend more time together. Initially, I was thrilled, thinking we'd bond and grow closer. But as the weekend progressed, her attitude shifted in a way that made me uncomfortable. The first passive-aggressive remark came during breakfast on Saturday morning. I had made a batch of my favorite pancakes, and while Jaden was outside enjoying his coffee, Maria looked at me with a smile and said, "Oh, I guess you don't worry too much about carbs, huh?" I laughed it off at the moment, assuming it was just a casual comment, but it stung a bit. Later that day, as we were flipping through some wedding dress magazines, Maria pointed at a model and remarked, "This dress is stunning, but it's meant for someone with a very specific figure. Not everyone can pull it off." She glanced at me as she said it, and it felt like a subtle dig, suggesting she didn't think I could wear something like that. I just nodded and tried to brush it off, but the comment lingered, making me feel self-conscious. The remarks kept coming. When we were out shopping for some decorations, she casually mentioned, "You know, my friend's daughter lost 20 pounds for her wedding. She looked so stunning. Have you thought about doing something like that?" I was taken aback and didn't really know how to respond. I mumbled something about being content with my body as it is, but it left me feeling judged, as if she thought I should be trying to lose weight for the wedding. The next morning, while she was looking through my kitchen cupboards, she commented, "Oh, you have a lot of snacks here. I'd try to keep my house a bit more on the healthy side. You don't want to gain weight before the wedding, do you?" I couldn't believe she was still harping on about my weight, and it was beginning to really hurt my feelings. It felt like she was picking on me, even though she always had a smile on her face and spoke in a seemingly kind tone. What struck me as odd was that Maria never made those comments in front of Jaden. It was as if she had a switch she could flip on and off. When Jaden was around, she was all smiles and sweet words, but the moment he stepped out or was in another room, she'd start making those passive-aggressive remarks. I felt like I was living in two different worlds, one where I was accepted and loved, and another where I was constantly judged and criticized. Initially, I didn't think it was necessary to bring this issue up with Jaden. After all, it was his mom, and I didn't want to create any tension between us, especially since we had just gotten engaged and were in such a blissful place. I kept telling myself that it was just a minor inconvenience, something I could handle. Besides, I'm not exactly thin. I have curves, and I'm proud of my body. I've worked hard to feel confident in my own skin. Maria's remarks were more annoying than anything else. It felt like she was trying to undermine my confidence, but I was determined not to let her get to me. However, Maria started coming over more frequently. It felt like she was around every weekend, and it was beginning to drive me a little crazy. I worked from Monday to Friday and only had the weekends to focus on wedding planning. But every time I turned around, there was Maria, offering to help or just hanging around. It was tough to concentrate on wedding preparations with her constantly there, making little comments and acting like she knew better than I did. One weekend, she called to say she'd be coming over again. I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach because I really needed some time alone to plan without her input. So I told her I was going to be busy and wouldn't be at home. She asked what I was up to, and before I could stop myself, I blurted out that I was going to look at wedding dresses. I think I just wanted her to know that I had important things to do. To my surprise, she got really excited and said she'd love to come along. I didn't know how to say no without sounding rude, so I reluctantly agreed. The next thing I knew, she was at my door, beaming and eager to help me find the perfect dress. I tried to smile back, but inside, I was dreading how this shopping trip would unfold. We visited a few bridal shops, and from the moment we stepped inside, Maria was in full mom mode, suggesting dresses that didn't appeal to me and making comments about how certain styles wouldn't flatter my figure. It was utterly draining. I felt like I couldn't even breathe without her casting judgment. When I tried on a dress that I genuinely loved, she remarked, "It's nice, but don't you think it's a bit snug around the waist? Maybe something more flowy would suit you better." I was crushed because I adored that dress, but her words made me second-guess myself. By the end of the day, I hadn't found a dress, and I was feeling pretty low. Thankfully, Maria went back to her place, and I finally had a moment of peace. For the next few days, she kept texting me, asking when I would be looking for dresses again. I just kept saying that I didn't know when I'd have the time. I was determined not to tell her when I planned to go shopping, but my plan unraveled when Jaden mentioned to his mom that I'd be going dress shopping the next day. So she called me, asking what time she should come over. I found myself at a crossroads. Maria had already made so many remarks about my body that I dreaded the idea of her tagging along. I knew that if I took her with me to the bridal shop, she would ruin the day with more comments and judgments, so I decided to come up with an excuse. I told her that the bridal shop had a rule allowing only 2 people to accompany me, and my mom and maid of honor were already on their way. I realize now that it was a pretty lame excuse, but at that moment I couldn't think of anything else. Maria quickly pointed out how ridiculous my explanation was and said, "What kind of bridal shop only allows 2 people? That's just silly." I fumbled for a response and said, "I know it's weird, but that's what they told me." I was sweating bullets because I knew how flimsy my lie sounded. I hurriedly told her I had to go and ended the call before she could ask any more questions. As soon as I hung up, a huge wave of guilt washed over me. I hated lying, especially to Jaden's mom, but I just couldn't face another day of her making me feel bad about myself. I decided to focus on the positive and remind myself that this day was supposed to be fun and exciting. My mom and maid of honor picked me up and we headed to the bridal shop. I did my best to shake off the lingering guilt and just enjoy the moment, and in the end, I found a dress that I absolutely loved. After that, Maria didn't call, text, or even visit our house. She still kept in touch with Jaden, which was a bit of a relief since it avoided any awkwardness between them. I sent her a picture of me in the wedding dress, hoping to share some of my excitement with her. She responded with just a thumbs up emoji and nothing else. I wasn't sure how to interpret that, but I decided not to overthink it. With so much to do as the wedding approached, I didn't have time to dwell on her reaction. As the wedding day drew nearer, I became increasingly busy with all the preparations. Honestly, I didn't reach out to Maria again. There was so much to coordinate, finalizing the guest list, confirming the caterers, and ensuring that all the decorations were perfect. Finally, the big day arrived. It exceeded all my expectations. The ceremony was beautiful, and I couldn't stop smiling as I walked down the aisle toward Jaden. The look on his face when he saw me in my dress was priceless, making all the stress of planning worthwhile. We said our vows, exchanged rings, and just like that, we were married. The reception started off perfectly. The venue was gorgeous, the weather was ideal, the food was delicious, and everyone seemed to be having a great time. I loved our first dance. Jaden and I had taken a few dance lessons and we managed not to step on each other's toes. It felt like a fairy tale, and I was on cloud 9. Everything was going smoothly until I decided to get a drink. I walked over to the bar for something refreshing, and there was Maria, standing right there. She turned to me with a big smile and said, "You look like you're having a wonderful time. Let me get you a drink, just relax and enjoy yourself." I was a bit taken aback by her sudden enthusiasm but thought maybe she was trying to make up for all the awkwardness. She handed me a Shirley Temple, and I thanked her and took a sip. A few minutes later, I started feeling drowsy, but I assumed it was just because I was tired. Then, I fainted on the floor and lost consciousness. Everything went black, and the next thing I knew, Jaden was panicking and calling for an ambulance. I could hear the worry in his voice as he tried to keep me awake. People were gathering around, but it was all a blur. When the EMTs arrived, they quickly brought me back to consciousness and began asking questions about what I had eaten and drunk that day. I told them everything, including the meal I had at the reception and the Shirley Temple that Maria had given me. They expressed concern and asked if there was anything unusual or if I had taken any medication. That's when Maria, looking a bit guilty, stepped forward and admitted that the drink she gave me had alcohol in it. She explained that she didn't think it would be a big deal and thought it would help me relax. I was stunned. Why would she add alcohol to my drink without telling me? The situation became even more complicated when my maid of honor, Emily, spoke up. She informed the EMTs that I had taken some anxiety medication just minutes before walking down the aisle. I had been so anxious about everything going off without a hitch that I took a small dose to calm my nerves. It turned out that the combination of the medication and the alcohol in the drink was what caused me to collapse. There must have been some kind of chemical reaction that knocked me out. The EMTs explained that mixing alcohol with certain medications can be very dangerous and that I was fortunate the outcome wasn't more severe. After the EMTs left, Jaden turned to Maria and demanded that she leave. His voice was shaking with anger, and Maria looked completely shocked. She tried to explain, insisting she hadn't meant any harm and that it was all just a misunderstanding, but Jaden wasn't having any of it. He shouted at her to leave the reception immediately. I had never seen him so furious, and it broke my heart to witness his anger towards his mom on what was supposed to be a joyful day. With all the chaos, I wasn't feeling well, and the mood at the reception took a nosedive. Guests started to feel uncomfortable, and the joyous atmosphere we had worked so hard to create just vanished. People began leaving one by one, and before we knew it, the reception ended early. It was devastating to see everyone leave so soon, and I felt like the day I had been dreaming of for so long had been ruined. Jaden and I went back to our hotel room, and I was left trying to process everything that had happened. I felt numb, exhausted, and overwhelmed with sadness. This day was supposed to be one of the happiest of my life, but instead, it had turned into a nightmare because of a careless prank. I couldn't believe that Maria's actions had destroyed our special day. Maria kept texting and calling both me and Jaden, but neither of us responded. We needed some time to process everything and figure out our next steps. I could see that Jaden was deeply troubled by the situation. He loved his mom, but he was also incredibly hurt and angry over what she had done. It was a difficult situation, and I had no idea how to fix it. When we finally returned home, I tried to put the whole incident behind me and focus on starting our new life together, but it wasn't easy. Every time I thought about our wedding day, I felt a pang of sorrow. I kept replaying the events in my mind, wondering how things could have turned out differently if Maria hadn't pulled that prank. It felt like a dark cloud hanging over what should have been a beautiful memory. Thankfully, we soon left for our honeymoon, and it was such a relief to escape all the drama and stress. Jaden and I had an amazing time exploring new places and creating beautiful memories together. It was the perfect getaway, and for those 2 weeks, I felt like everything was back to normal. We laughed, relaxed, and enjoyed each other's company without a care in the world. When we returned home, reality hit us hard. The moment we pulled into the driveway, there was Maria, standing at the door. My heart sank, and a wave of anxiety washed over me. I had anticipated this confrontation, but I wasn't prepared for it to happen as soon as we got back. What made it worse was that she didn't offer an apology. Instead, she kept insisting that it wasn't her fault and that it was all just a prank. She tried to justify her actions, saying things like, "I didn't think it would hurt you. And I just wanted to lighten the mood." It was infuriating to watch her refuse to take responsibility for what she had done. I couldn't believe she was trying to downplay the whole incident as if it were just a harmless joke. Jaden couldn't hold back any longer. He snapped and told her that enough was enough. He said she had crossed a line and needed to own up to her actions. He made it clear that the only way he would talk to her again was if she apologized to me. He told her that she had hurt me deeply, and it was not acceptable. Maria tried to interrupt, but Jaden didn't let her. He went on to say that from now on, they would only be seeing each other during holidays. No more random weekend visits, no unnecessary calls. He told her it would be like they were distant relatives who only met on special occasions. Maria was shocked and started to cry, but Jaden remained firm. I could see how painful it was for him to have to set such boundaries with his own mother, but he was determined to support me and ensure I felt safe and respected. Yesterday, while I was at work, I got a call from Maria. It caught me off guard because we hadn't spoken in a while, and I wasn't expecting her to reach out, especially during work hours. She told me she was outside my office and wanted to meet. I was surprised and didn't want her coming inside and causing any unnecessary drama, so I agreed to meet her outside to avoid a scene. We sat down at a small cafe across the street, and I could tell she was really upset. As soon as we began talking, she broke down in tears. It was awkward because people around us started to stare. She told me she couldn't believe what Jaden was doing. He wasn't answering her calls or responding to her messages. She was distraught and begged me to talk to him on her behalf, saying she just wanted things to go back to the way they were before. I want to point out that, up until this moment, Maria still hadn't apologized to me for what happened at the wedding. It was as if she was in complete denial about the impact of her actions. I told her that instead of coming to my office and causing a scene, she should be thinking about how her actions had affected both me and Jaden. I explained that she had ruined my wedding day, and it wasn't fair to expect me to just brush that aside and talk to Jaden for her. She tried to defend herself, saying she didn't mean any harm and was sorry I reacted the way I did. It was as though she couldn't see past her own perspective and understand that her actions had real consequences. She kept insisting that if she had known what would happen, she never would have done it. As she continued to cry, I noticed people in the cafe beginning to glance over with concern. The whole situation made me incredibly uncomfortable, and I just wanted to leave. I told her that I would see what I could do, but I didn't make any promises. Up until now, I still haven't talked to Jaden about it because I'm not sure if I'm ready to forgive Maria. After all, she only apologized after I prompted her to do so. My mom thinks I should just let it go and forgive my mother-in-law, but I'm not entirely sure. What do you all think? I'd really appreciate your advice. Update 1. Hi everyone, thank you so much for your comments and suggestions. It really means a lot to have a space where I can share my story and receive support. Maria's constant texts and calls were starting to wear me down. So I decided it was time to have another conversation with Jaden and figure out how we could move forward. I told Jaden that Maria had come to my office and apologized to me. It wasn't entirely true. Her apology wasn't exactly what I needed, but I felt like it was time to start mending things, even if just a little. I told him that I had forgiven her, which was mostly true, because I wanted to move past this mess and focus on our future. Jaden looked at me with concern and asked if I was really sure. I assured him that I was ready to move on, but we needed to set some boundaries with his mom to avoid any more drama. He seemed relieved that I was willing to forgive her, but he also recognized that this wasn't just about me, it was about us as a couple and our need for peace and stability. After our talk, Jaden texted Maria, letting her know that he was glad she had apologized to me and that we were ready to try and move forward. However, he also made it clear that the boundaries we set before still stood: no more dropping by unannounced, no more constant calls, and no more overstepping her limits. He told her that we needed some space to focus on our own lives. Maria responded almost right away, saying that she was sorry for everything and that she just wanted to be a part of our lives. She promised to respect our boundaries and give us the space we needed. I still have mixed feelings about the whole situation. On one hand, I'm glad that Maria seems to be taking our boundaries seriously. But on the other, I still feel a bit uneasy because I know that one slip-up could bring all the drama back. I'm trying to focus on the positive and remind myself that we are making progress, even if it's slow. Some of you have asked about my anxiety, and I want to thank you for your concern. I don't feel comfortable going into too much detail, but I do want to clarify that my anxiety wasn't about Jaden or our relationship. I knew he was the one for me from the moment things got serious between us. The anxiety was more related to the wedding day itself and the immense pressure that comes with planning such a big event. We had over 200 guests attending, and I was determined for everything to be perfect. I worried endlessly about all the little things that could go wrong, like the food not turning out well, the music not being enjoyable, or the decorations not living up to my expectations. The thought of any detail going awry made me incredibly anxious. I wanted our guests to have an amazing time and to remember our wedding as a beautiful and joyous celebration. Update 2. Hi everyone, something unexpected happened, and I'm still trying to figure out how to feel about it. Things were going smoothly until last weekend when Jaden received a call from Maria inviting both of us to dinner at her place. She mentioned that it was important for us to have this dinner to start getting things back to normal after everything that had happened. Jaden told me about the invitation and asked what I thought. I told him it would be okay and that we should go. Maybe this was her way of trying to make amends. When we got to Maria's house, she greeted us with a warm smile. But after dinner, Maria did something that completely took me by surprise. She got up, left the room, and came back with a check for $5,000. She handed it to me, saying she was truly sorry for ruining our wedding day and that, while she couldn't change the past, she wanted to give me this money as a way to make up for it. I was completely taken aback and immediately felt uncomfortable. It was such an unexpected gesture and I didn't know how to respond. I refused the money right away, telling her that I didn't need it and that we should just let bygones be bygones. Jaden agreed and told her that she didn't have to give us any money, but Maria was persistent. She wouldn't take the check back and ended up slipping it into my coat pocket. I was so shocked and didn't know how to handle it. She seemed almost desperate for us to accept it, which only made the situation more awkward. After that, we left her house and headed back home. On the way, Jaden and I talked about what had happened and we were both confused. Why would Maria give us such a large amount of money? It felt strange, and I couldn't help but wonder what her true intentions were. Was she genuinely sorry, or was this her way of trying to buy our forgiveness? I'm not sure, and it's left me feeling really unsettled. Jaden and I discussed it again, and we're still not certain about what to do. He's just as confused as I am, and we both want to approach this situation in a way that's fair and respectful. We don't want to hurt Maria's feelings or dismiss her attempts to make amends, but at the same time, we don't want to feel like we're being bought off. If anyone has any advice or has gone through something similar, I'd really appreciate hearing your thoughts. Update 3. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and honestly, not much has changed. We still have the check that Maria gave us, but we haven't cashed it. It's just sitting in our drawer, almost like a reminder of everything that's happened. I'm not really sure what we'll end up doing with it, but for now, it's just there. As for our relationship with Maria, things are pretty much the same. We're all in this holding pattern where we're trying to be civil and respectful without revisiting the past too much. She's been respecting our boundaries, which has been a huge relief. She doesn't show up unannounced anymore, and the constant barrage of texts and calls has stopped. It feels like she's genuinely trying to do better, and that gives me some hope for the future. Jaden and Maria still talk on the phone regularly, and their conversations seem to be positive. I'm relieved that their relationship hasn't suffered too much from everything that happened. I also talk to Maria sometimes. Our conversations are polite and a bit formal, but both of us are making an effort to keep things friendly. I think this will be my last update for a while. I don't expect much to change anytime soon, and I'm hopeful that things will continue to improve little by little. I want to focus on the positive and keep moving forward, and I believe that's the best approach for now. If anything major happens, I might pop back in with an update, but for now, I'm going to take a step back and concentrate on living my life. Thank you again for all your support, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. My sister tried to seduce my fiancé before our wedding. Got caught on camera and was disowned by our parents. My manipulative, narcissistic sister attempted to seduce my fiancé just before our wedding in an effort to break us apart. Fortunately, her actions were caught on camera, leading to her being disowned by our parents. This story revolves around my older sister, Dove, 29F, who has never been able to tolerate my existence, as she apparently believes I'm living a life that I don't deserve. Dove, who is now divorced and jobless, is living with our parents. She had dropped out of college to be with her wealthy boyfriend, who eventually divorced her when her true nature became apparent. Growing up, my relationship with Dove was far from ideal. She was always the pretty and smart one, full of herself, and our parents consistently showered her with praise, which left me feeling inadequate. Everyone around us constantly admired her looks, while I was often ignored, and it hurt deeply. Dove used her popularity to mess with my mind, telling me that no one liked me, which made me incredibly insecure. My parents never supported me or acknowledged my feelings because Dove always lived up to their expectations. This led me to distance myself from them throughout my childhood and teenage years. Dove frequently had friends over when our parents were at work, and they would often mess with my room. On one occasion, they even ruined a school project of mine, nearly causing me to fail. When I threatened to tell Mom about it, Dove blackmailed me, saying she would share embarrassing pictures of me with my classmates. At just 14 years old, I was terrified. Dove never took responsibility for her actions, and it was pointless to tell my parents because they never paid attention to me. My mom never had my back, although my dad would occasionally call Dove out. For instance, one time she used my phone to send strange pictures to my friends after I'd complained to Dad about her. Another time, she spilled coffee on my prom dress and then played the victim, crying and claiming it was an accident. After that, I stopped confiding in him altogether. I never really understood why she harbored so much hatred towards me until later when I realized that she was a narcissist, and her behavior had nothing to do with me. She was a walking red flag in her relationships, cheating on every guy she dated. As much as I hate to admit it, she was also a gold digger. Something her ex, who remains a friend of mine, can fully attest to. Essentially, she was pretty awful as a teenager, and nothing changed as she grew older. If anything, her behavior only got worse. It was entirely my parents' fault because they never bothered to discipline her. After school, things finally started to look up for me. I worked incredibly hard to get into my dream college, and after a few years of struggle, I landed my dream job. It was there that I met the love of my life, Atlas, at an office conference. He was smart, kind, and handsome, and we hit it off instantly. Within a few months, we started dating. We traveled a lot, which only strengthened our bond. Atlas was very close to his family, so he introduced me to his siblings and parents just a few months into our relationship. But when it came to introducing him to my own parents, I took my sweet time. The main reason for this delay was my sister Dove and her malicious intentions. I always had this nagging feeling that she would find a way to ruin everything. She was the one who always got the best of everything as a child and teenager, and now that my life was going better than hers, I was certain she wouldn't be able to handle it, especially when it came to my relationship. However, I couldn't keep delaying the introduction any longer. Atlas was beginning to grow suspicious of my reluctance to introduce him to my family. So, after a year and a half of dating, I finally told Dad about him. Dad was thrilled that I had found a man who was worthy of me and invited us over for dinner. While I was excited, I was also equally stressed because I knew Dove could go to any lengths to sabotage my happiness. Although Atlas was aware of my family dynamics, I went over it with him in detail. He was relaxed about it and reassured me that he would handle whatever came his way. A few days after I spoke with Dad, I unexpectedly received a call from Dove. It was surprising since she had never reached out to me before. She started asking questions about Atlas and when I planned to visit home, but it was clear that her real interest was in getting more details about Atlas. I can only assume that Mom had told her I was seeing someone and that our relationship was getting serious. Dove was suddenly trying to get all chummy with me, but I could see right through her motives. Now, I'm grappling with whether I should take the risk of introducing Atlas to Dove, knowing full well that her intentions are far from good. I'm also considering an alternative, perhaps inviting my parents over to my place so they can meet Atlas without involving Dove. Update 1, thanks for all the great advice. Some of you asked for more details about Dove, so here you go. It's true that my parents, especially my dad, began to see Dove differently after her divorce, and she really brought it on herself. She had been academically gifted, but once she got to college, her entire focus shifted to her looks and beauty. That's when she met Jeremy, a super rich guy, and jumped into a relationship with him, completely abandoning her studies. During my final year of school, I was busy preparing for my college entrance exams, and Dove kept telling me I would never get into my dream college. But I did, and for the first time, I got validation from my parents. They were genuinely happy and proud of me, but Dove couldn't stand it. She was jealous that all the attention was on me and not on her. To sabotage my moment, she announced her engagement to Jeremy at the celebration party my parents had organized for me with close family and friends. It was obvious from Jeremy's expression that he had no idea she was going to do this, but she succeeded in making the day all about herself. Everyone immediately became curious about Jeremy because, according to Dove, he was extremely wealthy. Dove loved to show off the expensive gifts he bought her and would constantly tell me that I'd never find a rich husband because I was ugly and no one would want to date someone like me, always trying to make me feel bad. I eventually told her that I wasn't a gold digger like her and that I could pay my own bills, so she could have the rich husband if that's what she wanted. In truth, she was incredibly selfish and downright evil, the most selfish person I've ever known. A week later, Dove and Jeremy got engaged, but by then I was already off to college and didn't attend the engagement. During my time in college, I had no communication with her. It actually felt good to come home for the holidays, knowing that Dove was living with Jeremy. Even during the holidays, she would often be away on vacations to exotic locations with him. After a year of dating, they had a lavish wedding, with most of the expenses covered by Jeremy. Dad chipped in for the remaining costs as a courtesy since Dove wasn't earning anything. Their marriage didn't last long, though. After 3 years, they got divorced. The reason, as I later found out, was that Dove didn't want to have children, while Jeremy was eager to become a father. Although he assured me he never pressured her, he was frustrated that she never disclosed her feelings about it beforehand and had avoided the conversation for 3 years. He also mentioned her drinking and partying habits, flirting with guys at bars, and that she had married him purely for his money, with no emotional connection. I couldn't help but wonder how he remained blind to her true motives for so long. Jeremy even showed me videos of Dove out drinking with guys who were touching her inappropriately, and she did nothing to stop them. I was relieved he finally ended things with her, but my parents took Dove's side, blaming Jeremy for pressuring her about having kids, never acknowledging her faults. After the divorce, Dove moved back in with my parents since she wasn't working. She had dropped out of college to marry Jeremy, and now, after 5 years, she had no degree and no work experience. She pretended to be traumatized by the divorce, but in reality, she was happy to be free. Within a month of the divorce, she was back to her old habits, clubbing and hooking up. Her life seemed to revolve around weekly dates and ditching people, and her Instagram stories made it clear what she was really up to. 2 years into my career, I landed my dream job with a great salary, and my parents were thrilled. After receiving the job offer, I visited home, and Dad was so proud of me, I couldn't have been happier. We were having dinner when Dove returned home, looking partially drunk. Dad was upset at the sight of her and commented that Dove should have focused on her education like I did, instead of ruining her life over Jeremy. He pointed out how much I was earning and how Dove was still dependent on them for money. Mom tried to get Dad to stop making such comments, but hearing this, Dove lost her temper and slammed the door. That's when Dad finally realized just how spoiled Dove had become. He told Mom that it was time to knock some sense into her, insisting that Dove needed to start taking her life seriously and get back on her feet instead of continuing to leech off them. By this point, I was completely fed up with her. Later, Dove barged into my room and smugly told me that no matter how much money I made, I could never be like her. She even went as far as to body shame me, pointing out my belly fat and chubby cheeks. As a teenager, those kinds of comments used to break my heart, but now, I just didn't care. I laughed in her face and told her that I had no desire to be like her and that she clearly needed to work on fixing her attitude. That set her off, and she demanded that I leave the house. I calmly reminded her that this was our parents' house, and she had no authority to boss me around. The next day, as I was packing to leave, I noticed that 2 of my dresses had been badly torn, clearly cut with scissors. I went downstairs and showed my parents what Dove had done. Dad was furious and called Dove out, but Mom, as usual, tried to make excuses for her, claiming Dove was in shock and didn't know what she was doing. Dad wasn't having any of it. He warned Mom to stay out of it and then unleashed his anger on Dove, telling her that she needed to get her life together because he was done providing for her or tolerating her narcissism. This confrontation didn't sit well with Dove, and she ended up hating me even more because of it. From that point on, I was subjected to Dove's wrath, but her hatred didn't bother me. It only became unbearable when she started making advances on my boyfriend. After much consideration and talking it over with Atlas, I decided it was time to visit my parents with him. There was no point in hiding him from Dove any longer because, no matter how hard I tried, she would eventually find a way to get to him. My friends advised me that it was better to test his loyalty now than to risk losing him later. Dove would only succeed in her malicious intentions if Atlas allowed it. With a sense of dread, I showed up at my parents' house with Atlas. I tell you, she was practically throwing herself at him. As he was exchanging greetings with Mom and Dad, Dove almost forcefully pushed herself onto him for a hug. I have no idea what made her think Atlas would fall for her looks. She had completely transformed her appearance, dyeing her blonde hair black, getting all dressed up in a new outfit, with her nails and hair perfectly done, as if she was on a date with him. She tried to force her way into the conversation, but it was clear that everyone was ignoring her. At the dinner table, she quickly rushed to sit beside Atlas. When I asked her to move so I could sit there, she gave me an annoyed look but eventually complied. She kept asking Atlas about his interests, and if he mentioned liking something, she would immediately claim she liked it too, even if it was obvious she didn't. Then she'd go on about how she and Atlas were so compatible, winking at me as if to suggest I shouldn't take it seriously, though it was clear she was trying to cover up her intentions. Atlas was visibly uncomfortable, and he ignored her, continuing his conversation with Dad and Mom. Her desperate attempt was so blatantly obvious. After dinner, I decided to take a shower, leaving Atlas by himself. That's when Dove walked in, asking him to call her number because she claimed she couldn't find her phone. It was obvious that this was just a ploy to get his number. How twisted. Atlas also told me that while I was occupied with other things, Dove tried to play the victim, telling him her sob story about the divorce and how much mental distress it had caused her, dragging on about how it took her years to recover. To make matters worse, Mom even chimed in, blaming Jeremy and speaking ill of him. After a while, Atlas asked me if I wanted to go for a walk and give him a tour of the neighborhood. Before I could respond, my sister quickly stood up and said, "Sure." Atlas looked at her, surprised, and firmly stated that he wanted some alone time with me. Her face turned red with embarrassment and she quietly retreated to her room. It's only been a few days since that visit and I can already sense that Dove is planning more schemes to lure Atlas into her trap. I can't deny that it worries me, but at the same time, I trust my man and am curious to see how he handles her advances. Update 2. Hello everyone, I'm thrilled to share that I'm engaged. Atlas proposed to me last month during a trip and yes, he got down on one knee with a ring, and I couldn't stop gushing over it. But even after our visit to my parents, Dove didn't stop with her manipulative tactics. She started texting Atlas, asking how he was doing. Knowing that Atlas is a huge cat lover, Dove began flooding his inbox with cute cat videos, even though she never cared for cats before. After discovering that Atlas adored cats, she went so far as to get one herself and began recording videos of it to send to him. For the first few weeks, Atlas showed me Dove's desperate attempts to appear caring and concerned, sending messages that pretended to inquire about his work and well-being. After a while though, he stopped sharing her messages with me. I assumed she had finally given up on him and moved on, and we both shifted our focus back to more important things, especially with our busy work schedules. One day, as I was scrolling through social media, I noticed that Dove had added Atlas to her account. She was liking and commenting on nearly all of his posts, using silly heart icons. She even went back and commented on old pictures and videos from 7 to 10 years ago. I immediately felt uneasy about it, so out of the blue I checked his phone. I discovered that Dove was still texting him occasionally, but her messages were unread and seemed odd. She was clearly trying hard to get Atlas's attention. In his call logs, I saw missed calls from her, including one that came in around 3 a.m., which made me feel anxious. I confronted Atlas about why he hadn't told me that Dove was still texting him. He got a bit nervous and explained that he had been ignoring her and thought it was better if we didn't talk about her. I pressed him further about the calls, and he remained calm. Then he sat me down and explained that one day, Dove had called him, sounding really upset. He got scared, thinking something might be seriously wrong, but it turned out she just started talking about traumatic experiences related to Jeremy, saying she needed someone to talk to. Atlas told Dove that she should talk to her parents instead and that it wasn't appropriate to call so late. He also mentioned that she should have let me know first. That really struck a nerve with me, and I told him that keeping this from me wasn't okay and could lead to me losing trust in him. He reassured me that he would never fall for her tricks and that I had nothing to worry about. Even with his reassurance, I had read too many stories about husbands falling into similar traps, and I didn't want to be naive by blindly trusting him. I told him that the next time Dove called, he should hand the phone over to me so I could catch her in the act. Sure enough, one night, her call came through, and Atlas woke me up in the middle of the night. I answered the phone, and Dove immediately went silent when she heard my voice. She quickly claimed it was a mistake and hung up. The next day, I tried calling her multiple times to confront her, but she never picked up. So I texted her from Atlas's phone, letting her know it was me and that she needed to stop calling or texting him at odd hours. I also told her that if there was anything urgent she should contact me directly instead. After that, she finally stopped texting him, and I felt relieved that she was out of our lives. After Atlas proposed to me, I sent a picture of the ring to my dad. Dove must have shown it to Mom, and not long after, she started her stalking behavior again. She began texting Atlas and sending ridiculous videos. I was completely fed up. As soon as Atlas told me, I called her and unleashed all my pent-up anger, telling her to stop playing games and get a life. She mostly stayed silent while I let it all out, but I didn't realize at the time that she wasn't going to back down easily. As soon as I hung up, Mom called, furious, yelling at me for insulting my sister. Dove had told her that I was accusing her of trying to steal my fiancé. Mom claimed that my cruelty had caused Dove to have panic attacks and insisted that I be more considerate toward her, reminding me that Dove had been struggling with depression for years and was still recovering from her traumatic divorce. I found it laughable because Dove was never depressed about her divorce. I hung up the call and immediately informed Dad that if they continued to ignore Dove's behavior, I would have no choice but to cut them out of my life. I was done being a puppet in her game. I couldn't keep turning a blind eye to her antics. Update 3. I never imagined Dove would stoop so low. She had always made my life miserable, but I never thought she would actually try to seduce my fiancé before our wedding. The bullying, body shaming and constant ridicule were one thing, but realizing that she was willing to go as far as trying to ruin my wedding by seducing Atlas was a bitter pill to swallow. As we were planning our wedding, I wasn't in contact with Mom after our last confrontation. However, she eventually called and apologized for shouting at me, admitting that she had lost control out of fear for Dove, who was supposedly having panic attacks. One of my cousins later told me that Dove had been crying to everyone about how I was accusing her of trying to steal my fiancé and that I didn't deserve any of the good things in my life, especially Atlas. According to Dove, because she was the gorgeous one, she believed she should be the one getting the best of everything, not me. When I told Mom about this, she went quiet. She simply told me to forget everything and focus on my wedding and the happy life ahead. Fortunately, everything went as planned, and Dove managed to keep a low profile for a while. At the very least, she didn't interfere in our lives during that time. On the day of our wedding, we were at the venue, busy with final preparations, when I received a call from Atlas's best friend, asking me to come to Atlas's room with my parents. I jokingly teased him, saying that Atlas wasn't supposed to see the bride before the ceremony, but he insisted that this was something serious that needed to be dealt with before the wedding. My heart raced as I hurried to Atlas's room with my parents. When we arrived, Atlas was lying shirtless, drifting in and out of consciousness, while his groomsmen recounted Dove's devious actions. Apparently, while Atlas was getting ready, Dove had shown up with a drink. He initially refused it, but Dove persisted until he took a sip. Almost immediately, Atlas realized the drink was spiked. He excused himself and went to the washroom, where he called his friend, explained what had happened and asked him to come over. By the time his friend arrived, Atlas had partially passed out and was out of the washroom. Since his friend was sharing the room with Atlas, he had access and quickly turned on his camera as he entered. He overheard Atlas shouting at Dove to leave him alone while she was on top of him, undressing herself, and rubbing against him. This disgusting act was captured on camera. When Dove noticed Atlas's friend, she pretended they were making out, covered herself up and left the room, smirking at his friend and asking him not to tell anyone. Little did she know that she had already been caught on video. When we walked in, Atlas was still lying there, partially unconscious. The drink was so potent that even a few sips had left him severely dizzy with a pounding headache. The glass was still there, with solid particles settled at the bottom. It was an incredibly humiliating moment for my parents, who were in disbelief that Dove could do something so horrendous. My mom immediately called Dove and told her to come to Atlas's room. When she arrived, her lipstick was smudged, and she nonchalantly said, "I know you guys are mad at me, but it was mutual. Atlas loves me and has been making advances on me ever since we met. Today, he convinced me to have a one-time hookup before the wedding." My mom slapped her hard, telling her that we were aware of her lies and that everything had been recorded on camera. Dove was stunned by this revelation, and my parents wasted no time in kicking her out of the venue before she could cause any more trouble. Security was instructed not to allow her back inside. It was obvious that she had been trying to make it known that she had been with Atlas, hoping I would call off the wedding. My dad immediately called a doctor, who confirmed that Atlas had indeed been served a spiked drink, which had severely affected him. Atlas's parents and siblings were so upset that they wanted to confront Dove, but my parents had to apologize profusely to them to help calm the situation. The wedding had to be delayed until Atlas recovered, which took several rounds of vomiting to get through. Word of the incident spread quickly among the guests, who were buzzing with gossip for the next few days. Once Atlas had fully recovered, my dad walked me down the aisle. While I was happy to finally see Atlas as my husband, I couldn't shake the stress of everything that had transpired. During our vows, Atlas added an extra promise, vowing to protect our relationship from anyone who didn't want to see us together. After we returned from our honeymoon, My parents came to visit us and apologized to Atlas for all the trouble Dove had caused. My dad reassured us that Dove would be out of our lives for good. He had actually kicked her out of the house and told her to fend for herself. Despite this, I'm still struggling to move past the incident. My wedding was perilously close to being called off, and if Atlas's friend hadn't recorded what happened, I might never have believed that Atlas was innocent in all of this. I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I'm so stupid. I, female 26, had an affair with a married man, male 42 a few years ago. I had no clue he was married when we first met and hooked up. I obviously looked him up on social media and while he did have photos of his kids on there was absolutely no mention or photos of a wife at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we first got together, but he told me it was just a marriage on paper and that they basically lived separate lives and agreed to remain married for practical purposes until the kids were older. They owned a business, which she really ran and he was just financially involved in. I knew at the time that I probably shouldn't believe him, but I convinced myself it was true. I was in my early 20s and so attracted to him and I guess almost infatuated with him. He made me feel so good. I know now that I should have ended it immediately, but I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I was addicted to all of the attention he gave me, the great sex, the places he'd take me. I felt special. I was so naive. I got pregnant about a year into seeing him. I had always been so careful with preventing pregnancy, but during my relationship with him I took stupid risks. I was so high in lust with this guy, it's embarrassing. The things he'd asked me to do, I'd say yes to almost anything, even when I knew it was a bad idea. I was in love with him, or I thought I was. I hadn't intentionally wanted to get pregnant. I would of course dream about being his wife and having a family, but I knew that wouldn't be a possibility while he had this arrangement with his actual wife. I didn't get pregnant on purpose with any intention of him leaving her for me, even if I wished that we could be a real, normal couple. I was surprised by how excited I was to be pregnant with his baby. I wanted that baby once I found out I was pregnant. The thought of carrying this baby of the man I loved was so special to me, but I knew he probably wouldn't feel the same. I told him I was pregnant and he told me I couldn't keep the baby. I expected his reaction, but I was devastated and it hurt me to my core that he didn't feel the same way I did. He offered to pay, to make a whole weekend of it somewhere exciting, what the F, and to buy me something special if I'd just please get rid of the baby. He explained that he didn't want any more kids and that he couldn't openly be a father to another kid when he and his wife were still pretending to be happily married to the outside world. I agreed to do what he wanted and we made plans for him to pick me up and find somewhere out of town to go get it done. I was all packed the night he was going to pick me up, but I started to feel really scared and really unsafe about the whole thing. I took my bag and checked myself into a hotel to hide because I couldn't go with him. I texted him to say I promised to never contact him again and to never name him as the father or go after child support if he'd promised to leave me alone. At first he tried to sweet talk me into doing what he wanted. When I didn't cave in, he said some very nasty things to me and that I essentially better never contact him again or show up at his door. I have a 2-year-old now. At times, it's been difficult, but overall we are thriving as best we can. I have kept my word about not naming him as the father or requesting child support. His wife contacted me on social media. Well, she's his ex-wife now. She wants to talk to me. She found out about me and told me that she divorced him 6 months ago. She wants her children to know their siblings and for my child to know his siblings. That's weird to me. I haven't responded back to her yet. I am unsure about how to approach this. How do I respond to this? I wonder if I'm being selfish by not exploring an option for my child to know his siblings, if she's being genuine about that. If I was married and my husband fathered a child outside of our marriage, I don't think I'd feel the same that she does. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I didn't know he was married when we first got together. I acknowledge that I should have ended the relationship as soon as I found out he was married. I allowed myself to believe what he told me, which made it seem not so bad. Like this was some sort of agreement he and his wife had. Emotionally, I was already hooked. I'm not making excuses. I wouldn't say I was happy to bring a baby into this situation. There was a huge mix of emotions. I felt like I was in love with him, so there was a part of me that was excited at first. That feeling soon died, but I still felt that I loved my baby still. I tried to do the best thing that I could, which was to remove myself from his life and his family's life. I just wanted to be able to keep my baby and love my baby. I did not get pregnant on purpose. I wasn't on birth control. I had been on birth control when I was slightly younger and had life-threatening health complications as a result. He knew I wasn't on birth control. He loved unprotected sex. I was stupid and I agreed to do it. I would do almost anything he asked sexually. I tried to track my cycle and would tell him when it was probably not a safe time to do it. His wife isn't really what I'm afraid of. Whatever she'd want to say to me is probably deserved anyway, and more. Comment 2. He found out about the pregnancy before I ghosted him. And upon finding out I was pregnant with his child, there was absolutely no real discussion about what we were going to do. We were going to do what he wanted to do and he had it all planned out. He threatened me, by text and by phone calls and voicemails, when I told him I was not going to go with him on this abortion vacation he had planned. I begged him to please not force me to do that and he turned mean. I offered to never contact him again if he'd just let me go. After threatening me again, about what he'd do if I didn't keep my word, he agreed. He has kept his side of the bargain and has never contacted me. Comment 3. I've been assuming that she found out about me on her own, maybe saw something on his phone or computer and has probably known for a while before reaching out to me, if it's actually her. I get what some people are saying about siblings and such, but that man is not my child's dad. He is the dad of his older kids, but he's not the dad of my kid. I'm still young and I hope to have more children one day, and those children would be my son's siblings. I hope to find a man who loves me and my son and with whom I can have a legitimate relationship. I haven't been with another man since I ended things with this guy. I actually just went on 2 dates for the first time very recently. I'm not desperate to find a man right now, but I hope to find real love one day. Those people are not my son's family. He's 2 and they're old enough to drive. So I don't think they're missing out on any sort of important relationship right now. I understand wanting to know your bio family, and I feel he can decide that later on when he's old enough to have a day. Depending on where we are in our lives at the time, he might not feel a need to know those people. I don't plan to lie to my son about his conception, but I don't think we need to involve ourselves with the man's ex-wife and teenage children at this time. Update 1. I made a post 3 weeks ago and things have only gotten stranger. I had an affair with a married man a few years ago. I regret it and I will never do anything like that ever again. I knew it was wrong from the very beginning, but he captivated me. I was naive. I allowed myself to believe when he told me they were pretty much just married on paper for the sake of their kids. I got pregnant and while he tried to talk me into getting an abortion, I ultimately decided to keep the baby. I have a 2-year-old little boy now. I promised this man that I wouldn't expose our affair and I wouldn't formally identify him as the father or request child support. I did that because he was becoming very nasty about the whole thing and I felt like due to the mess that I had created and the way I felt by the end of it, a clean break with no involvement with him would be the best thing for everyone. I moved back to where my family is, hundreds of miles from where he and his family live. About a month ago his ex-wife reached out to me via social media, claiming they had been divorced for 6 months and that she wanted our children to be able to know each other. Now their kids are teenagers, so I didn't really think they'd want anything to do with the toddler and the woman their father was having an affair with. It seemed odd to me. After posting here, I sort of decided that I wouldn't respond to her. I'd just ignore it. She just sent me one message, so it wasn't as if she was badgering me about talking to me or meeting me. On Friday night, I decided to message her. I don't really know why. I think it was really just for my sake so I could have the chance to apologize to her. I told her that I would be more comfortable speaking with her face to face since I couldn't trust that it was really her. She said she understood. I was too nervous to meet her in person, but we did a video chat. I didn't know what to expect, if this was all a ploy just to unleash her fury on me or what. I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. It was really her. She told me she discovered our affair when she found communications between the two of us, after our relationship had ended. She told me I'm one of many women he had affairs with over the years and she knew about somebody even before he met me, but she didn't divorce him at the time. Finding out about my child was the final straw for her. I told her I was sorry for my relationship with her husband and admitted that I knew he was married. She graciously told me she forgives me and that while she harbored a lot of anger towards me initially, she ultimately blames her husband. I'm not blameless, but she chooses to not hate me, essentially. She said she couldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first found out about me, but she has moved past that. She still has anger toward him, in addition to many other emotions surrounding him. She started pouring out her heart to me about their 20-plus year marriage and life together and it was very awkward because what do I even say? Her kids know about me and my son. She says they're very mad at their father. Somehow I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved with my son's life. And why would they be mad about that? I would hate myself if I were them. I told her that with my son being so little right now, I don't really feel comfortable with him meeting her kids or being involved with their family. I feel unsure about it and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now. Then she told me her ex-husband was in a bad accident 2 months ago. He's fine now, still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, but will be fine. He is probably the most physically active person I've ever met, barely ever seems to sit down. So he must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She told me he wants to meet my son. Apparently she moved back in with him temporarily when he first came home from the hospital. She said the accident really shook him up and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son, not being involved, not providing for him. So now it's like, was everything she said just a lie and he somehow got her to reach out to me on his behalf? And she actually did it? It felt almost like a relief talking to her initially, but then it's like, was any of that true or you were just trying to be his messenger? I don't even know if that part is true now. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I don't believe I have to involve his teenage children in my son's life. Maybe when my son is old enough to decide if he wants that. He is not named on the birth certificate and I do not receive child support from him. I have asked nothing of him, except to let me move away and not try to force me to have an abortion. I basically had to promise him to not contact him, not make him as the father, not request child support. If he truly wants involvement with my son, he can reach out to me directly and he can take the legal route to establish himself as our son's father. Comment 2. He did not legally sever his rights. He never established rights in the first place. He has no rights until he goes to court and establishes himself as the father. He is welcome to do that. Honestly, I wish my son did have a father who was involved in his life and loved him. Yes, this guy has faults, but he has plenty of positive qualities. He is really involved with his older children. I met them many times because they'd be at work with him or he'd have to drop by the office on his way to take them somewhere. He was always doing things with them. They seemed like good kids who really loved their dad. I wish my son could have that experience too. I didn't think it was an option based on how he behaved when I was pregnant. He wasn't interested and wanted me and our baby to go away. That's what I did, and I accepted it. Comment 3. He is not legally my son's father at this time. This means that currently he has no legal parental rights or responsibilities regarding my son. I cannot stop him from taking the legal steps to establish paternity if he wishes to do so. He will always be my son's biological father. I can't change that fact. Regardless of whether or not he ever legally establishes paternity, my son will likely be curious about his biological father and who knows, maybe they will establish a relationship one day regardless of legal paternity. There is no way to say if I will meet a man who may want to adopt my son one day, thus becoming his legal father. It's something that I think would be nice, but nothing that I'm intent on doing. By choice, I've only been on 2 dates since my son was born and that was only within the year 2024. I realize that it will not be as simple as signing a piece of paper. Update 2. I posted about this a few months ago. To summarize very quickly, when I was fresh out of college I had an affair with a married man and father. I became pregnant. He wanted me to get an abortion. He had arranged to take me away on a vacation, to get an abortion. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do but I agreed to go along with what we wanted. At the last minute, when he was on his way to come pick me up, I told him I couldn't go through with the abortion. I just really didn't feel comfortable about his plan and how he was orchestrating everything. It scared me. I realized at that time how deep I had gone with this mistake, how screwed up the whole relationship was. He was really mad. He threatened me, said a lot of nasty things to me. I told him if he just left me alone and let me have my baby, then I'd leave him alone and wouldn't name him as the father or seek child support. I moved back home. I was living in a different state when I met him. I kept my word and I didn't name him as the father or seek to establish paternity. I have never sought child support. My child is 2 now. A few months ago his wife contacted me via social media. At first she made it seem like she wanted my child to have the opportunity to know his siblings. It was sort of weird since the siblings are teenagers. She said she had divorced him 6 months prior. I agreed to talk to her virtually, not in person. I felt that I owed it to her to apologize for what I had done. I do feel bad about it. But at the end of the conversation I told her that I didn't feel it was the appropriate time to connect my son with her kids. He's a toddler and in their teens, plus I had promised her husband to stay out of his life. That's when she told me that he was recently in a bad accident and she had been helping to take care of him. Supposedly he was going to be fine and was fairly recovered at that point, but she said he had expressed interest to meet our child. So she was basically his messenger. I have not been in contact with her since then. I deleted my social media. I don't know why, but the whole thing just really made me uncomfortable. since I last posted here. Then I received a handwritten letter from him. In it, he expressed how he wanted to get to know our son, he wants to be a father to our son, he wants to provide financially for him, he'd like us to come visit him. He asked me to sign a paternity affidavit. I refused to do so. I know he is my son's father, but I'm not going to make this that easy for him. After the things he said to me and threatened me with, he at least has to work for this. At that point, my parents felt that we needed to meet with a lawyer. All communication from me has gone through a lawyer. I have never responded to him personally, directly. Now I have a court order for paternity. I have to present my son to have a specimen taken tomorrow. I already know what it's going to say. It's not that I don't want my son to have a dad in his life. It's just, the whole situation is a mess. And he lives a few states away from me. I don't know what to do. I can't really do anything. He's doing things legally. Next, I'm sure he'll petition for some form of custody or visitation. He's not married anymore, supposedly, but he's a lot more established than I am. He has considerably more financial resources. I also know he has all sorts of connections where he lives. Luckily, they don't hold as much weight here in my state, but it's still so scary to me. I'm a bad mom. I brought my son into this world knowing it was a messy situation. I just got so comfortable with it just being the two of us, and now I don't want to give that up. Relevant comments OP on if the father would be moving closer to her and her son now that he's divorced from his ex-wife. OP answer, to touch on just a few things. I don't think he'll move away from where he lives. He has way too much established there. He's in his early 40s. I don't know how this supposed accident, if that even really happened, has affected him, but he was incredibly physically active when I knew him. He only slept like 4 hours a night, took a 20-minute power nap daily, and rarely ever sat down. He was also highly involved in his children's lives. I'd even say overprotective, like a helicopter dad instead of the typical helicopter mom. Careless_welder_4048, how did he have time to cheat? OP answer, he only slept a few hours a night and moved at about 1,000,000 miles a minute. Everyone joked about it. Somehow he always had time to get up at 5 a.m., go surfing, do some work, take his kids to school, do some work, take his power nap, get coffee, pick his kids up after school and take them wakeboarding or some other sort of thing like that, do some more work, be at his kids' basketball game and so on and so forth. He literally never ever stopped. I was just another thing to help fill out his calendar to prevent him from getting bored. OP on the father's relationship with his ex-wife and their children. OP answer. I also don't think he and his wife had much of a relationship, although it wasn't quite as he described it to me. They lived in the same house, but I believe they lived pretty separate lives. He bought her a business to give her something to do and keep her busy. She was there most of the time. They didn't even go to their kids' activities together. He was always the one going. So I think that freed up time too. I don't think they liked being around each other, so she was happy to have him out of the house. She admitted to me that I wasn't the first affair he had, and she knew about most of the time we were together. Another update on how stupid I am, or I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I won't rehash the whole thing here. My previous posts are on my profile. I got pregnant from an affair with a married guy. He wanted me to have an abortion. I decided I didn't want one. He turned mean. I promised to not name him as the father, legally, or to pursue any sort of child support. I moved away from where he and his family were located. I'm about 12 hours away from him now, back where my family is from. I haven't reached out to him in over 3 years since. His ex-wife reached out to me out of the blue via social media, initially claiming she wanted to connect with me so that our kids could know each other. When I politely declined for the time being, as her kids are teenagers and my son is a toddler and we live states apart, she revealed she was really reaching out on behalf of her ex-husband who had supposedly had a change of heart about being involved in our child's life after nearly dying in an accident. I did not engage with her any further after that. It all made me feel very uncomfortable. Later, I received a letter from him in the mail. He asked to be involved with our son, to provide for him, etc. It still felt weird. I mean, he turned really mean and didn't want anything to do with me or our baby and hadn't made any attempt to contact me in years, and I was not hiding. His wife was obviously able to find me on social media and you can find my address online. I felt like if he was serious, he'd take the steps to establish paternity legally. And that's what he did. Around 1.5 months ago we were ordered to submit DNA samples for a paternity test. It took around 5 weeks to find out what I already knew it'd say. But now things are stalled for another several weeks for the next step in the court process. I haven't talked to him at all during this whole thing. I didn't respond directly to his letter. I do have a lawyer and everything is basically going through him now. Then without any warning, he just showed up at my home last weekend. Just knocked on the door like it was nothing. Basically, this is his son and he doesn't want to wait another 6 weeks for the court to inevitably order us into some sort of custody mediation anyway. His words. Why can't I just talk to him? I told him he made me uncomfortable and him just showing up at my house really made me uncomfortable. Honestly, I don't know what made me so uncomfortable. The fact that he showed up unannounced like that, or the fact that I instantly felt the same attraction to him that I had when I was with him and I didn't want to feel that at all. In some weird way part of me felt happy to see him and then another part of me was disgusted that I was happy. He said he doesn't understand why we can't just talk about this. He's not trying to take my son away from me, he just wants to be involved in his life and to help provide for him like he should have been all along. He's sorry he wasn't there when he was born. He's sorry he reacted the way that he did when I didn't go along with his plans to take me on an abortion vacation. Why can't I believe that he just wants to be a dad to his kid? I guess I agree with him. Why can't I just accept that he has had a change of heart? I can't trust myself. I can't trust my own judgment. I feel like if I easily let him into my son's life, I'm going to end up regretting it and be made a fool of somehow. I've already made so many mistakes when it comes to him. He says it's stupid of me to not try to work it out amongst ourselves first. I'm giving so much control to the court. I don't know whether to believe that or to think it's just his way of convincing me to do what he wants. I know he will get some sort of visitation and eventual custody. Maybe it would be better if we try to come to an agreement, but he had the ability to sway me so easily. I'm so stupid when it comes to him. Nobody else has ever made me feel so foolish in my life. I want my son to have a dad. I admit it's probably selfish of me to want to keep him away. I just keep imagining having to spend weeks or months apart from my child while he's living with his dad 12 hours away and I can't stand the thought of it. I'm just feeling sad, stupid, and defeated. Relevant comments OP on if the father is actually divorced from his wife. OP answer, I checked the county records and they did actually get divorced. Mammoth_Might 8171. At this point you need to trust your lawyer. Hopefully he is a good one. Make sure that your lawyer has all the facts, including how poorly he treated you when he found out you were pregnant. Do not communicate any more with your ex, especially since you know that you're incapable of making good decisions when he is involved. You may need to prepare yourself mentally that your ex is eventually going to play a role in your kid's life, as much as that sucks. Hopefully you can go after him for back child support. OP answer. My lawyer has any and all information that I possibly had to share. I am already preparing myself that he will likely have a role in my child's life. I mean, the change will be difficult for me and I honestly don't want anything to change. But I'm trying to focus on any shred of positive outcome this could have for my son. He deserves a dad. I wish it wasn't in this situation. I wish I had given him 2 loving parents in a stable relationship, the ideal. I wish I had at least given him a father who didn't live states away. I feel bad that my son has 2 lying cheaters for parents. I truly do feel so embarrassed about our behavior in a new way I did before, ever since my son was born. Other than that whole thing and the fact that he's apparently had affairs with multiple women according to his ex-wife, he actually seems like a good dad to his teenage kids. He was always very involved with them. I guess I'm just trying to cling to whatever positive things I can think of. He can also provide a lot more financially than I currently can. That's scary for me because I'm already turning it into some sort of competition between us in my head. Several points for him, none for me. Plus my son is also very shy. He doesn't do well if me or one of my parents isn't there with him. I'm just now getting him involved in more activities with other kids and safe, trusted adults, but he still just clings to me. My heart breaks when I think of him meeting a strange man he doesn't know and me not being there. I want to be there. Plus I think that's how things normally go for him and to be perfectly honest that's how I used to be for him too. Just go along with what he wants. He was obviously expecting me when he showed up in person. He genuinely seemed surprised I didn't cave into his request right on the spot. The previous version of me probably would have. OP on how the father managed to find her address. OP answer. He sent me a letter in the mail previously. I googled myself and my address came up easily. Admittedly, I made no effort to hide myself after moving away. I didn't think I needed to. He had no interest in being involved with our baby and I promised to never contact him again. So I thought that was the end of it. His ex-wife told me he was in a bad accident when I talked to her. It's not too surprising based on his hobbies. He lives at like 200 miles per minute. According to her, she had to move back into their house to take care of him while he recovered. When he showed up here, he didn't look like somebody who had been in a life-threatening accident not too terribly long ago. He told me he's fully recovered, and although he'll probably have back issues the rest of his life, he's perfectly fine. OP on having a visitation plan with the father for her son. OP answer. My lawyer says that other than creating a graduated visitation plan based on the fact that my son doesn't know this man, the fact that he hasn't been involved in his child's life for the last 3 years won't mean much to the court. Their ultimate goal is for a child to have 2 parents. I screwed myself over by not naming him as the father at birth or trying to establish paternity in any way. Had I done that and he fought it, neglected to pay court-ordered child support, etc., then we could have a better case as far as abandonment goes. He is putting in the effort to establish paternity now, is willing to pay child support, so he says, and is presumably going to tell the court he wants to see his kid, and this is going to reflect positively for him, despite not being involved for 3 years. New update. Since everyone got mad at me for posting a recap of my situation in my previous posts, I won't even go there. If you're interested in the backstory, you can read my previous posts. All I will say is that I have a 3-year-old son who was conceived in an affair I had with a married man. After initially making me promise to not contact him, to not name him as the father, and to not request child support, my child's father has been pursuing involvement in our son's life over the last several months. He lives states away, and most recently he showed up at my house to try to convince me to work things out directly with him. Since the last time I posted, we've recently had a mediation session and he's met our son twice. At this time, he will have supervised visitation, with me present. Because he lives states away, he is required to come here to see our son. It will not be on a weekly basis due to the travel. He will see him during 2 weeks of the month, 2 times each week, for a total of 4 visits a month plus 2 video calls a month. This will last for 6 months. The next step will be for him to continue that schedule, but to have unsupervised visitation during which he cannot remove him from the area, for another 6 months. After a year, we agreed to have another mediation session to determine next steps, with the goal, his goal, of being able to have my son at his home for short overnights. I'm not even ready to discuss that. He's already suggesting I can come for the first few times. I don't like the sound of it at all. We also have the option to request another mediation before 1 year, and something tells me he's going to pull that. I also have an order for child support. While he is in agreement with paying child support, it will have to work through the court system before becoming official and for me to start getting the regular payment. He wrote me a large check in the meantime. I was hesitant to accept it. Not that I don't think my son deserves it, but now I'm just always worried I'll say or do the wrong thing legally, completely unknowingly, and shoot myself in the foot. Like, am I obligating myself and my son to anything by accepting this check? Can he somehow spin this against me? Of course he was not in favor of the 6-month plan, and while he does understand that my son should not just go off with a stranger upon first meeting him, he wishes we could speed it along a little more, but 6 months was what we were able to agree on. He wanted to fly us both to where he lived so he could spend a week or 2 getting to know our son, but I don't feel that's appropriate at this time. Perhaps in a few months, or around the holidays, depending on how things are going. It would be too much too soon. The initial 2 meetings went pretty much just as I thought they would. My son is extremely shy. He wanted to hide behind me most of the time. Then when he would venture out from behind me, as soon as his dad would say anything to him, he would scurry back behind me and just stare at his dad blankly without saying anything. He came out of his shell a little bit, however he has still not said a single word to his dad. He just pretends like his dad isn't there and only talks to me. I will say that his dad is being patient and understanding as far as that goes. If he's frustrated, he's not showing it. He did suggest that maybe our son needs to get out more, go to daycare more, of even preschool, instead of spending so much time with me and my parents. He's very delighted with how much our son looks like him and how much he favors him over me. The one thing that did bother me is that I already told him I wanted to be very careful and mindful of how we informed our son, this little barely 3-year-old boy, that this man, complete stranger, is his dad. He said sure, yeah. Then at the first meeting he introduced himself as dad. Since then I've been trying to help my son understand. Like, you know how your grandpa is my daddy, this guy is your daddy. It's so surreal to me that any of this is happening. I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for something to blow up in my face. Now it's just working on accepting our new reality. All of this change is hard and confusing for my son, and it's hard for me. Unless he really fucks up, I'm looking at eventually shared times with my son, spending school breaks and holidays at his dad's house, hours and hours away in another state. It won't happen tomorrow, but it will happen in the most likely reality. I just hope he stays committed. If he can be a good dad to my child, then my child deserves that, no matter how sad sharing him makes me. If he breaks my son's heart, That'll be another story and I won't accept that so readily. Relevant comments. OP on the times when her son has to go visit his father and what the courts are deciding on. OP answer, they haven't ordered him to visit his father in his state, but eventually, that will probably happen. Talking elementary school age. Worldly promise 675. I hope it all works out as well as it can given the circumstances. Your son and his well-being is definitely top priority. The baby daddy seems really pushy and doesn't like boundaries, so it does not seem he's changed much. OP answer, he's used to getting his way. I'm doing my best to not just roll over but also learn to compromise. Imalela, are you concerned that he may also try to push the idea of reconciling romantically? It sounds like you are focused on your son and he's focused on getting his way. OP answer, I don't know. He hasn't really given me that impression. He's given me compliments. He's tried reminding me of some of the good times we had together. But I see that as all part of his schmoozing to just get me to do what he wants, not to get back together with me. OP on getting a therapist for her son. OP answer, yes, I'm working on finding a therapist for him. I realize I should have started that process before this all went into action. My fiance's best friend ruined my life. How we stood up for each other and cut off the toxic relationship. My fiance has the biggest heart, would literally give you the shirt, pants, and hat off his body if you asked for it. He's a recovering people pleaser, and I get it because I also used to be a people pleaser. We've been together for 5+ years. A few months ago, I started picking up on his best friend making some not so nice comments towards me. I'm trying to be vague, but let's just say this friend is the type to read who in the room would be most affected by being picked on, and then he picks and picks and picks on them until they can't take it anymore. Nobody ever really holds him accountable for this, and unfortunately I have somehow become his favorite target. I tried to put up with these comments, but it started getting really elaborate. The friend would make up lies about me saying things I never said. He once called me in front of all our friends, my fiance included, just to yell "you're a bad friend" into the phone and then hang up. There's so much to it that I can't share because I'm trying to be somewhat anonymous. It started having an effect on me and my mental health, and I ended up having a full breakdown where I told my fiance how much this was all starting to hurt me. The first time I broke down over this, he said he would talk to his friend about teasing/messing with me less. He then told me his friend was sorry and that he'd be keeping an ear out for any other comments, and he'd jump to my defense if it happened again. A few weeks later I had a second breakdown over all this. The situation itself is hitting a very specific childhood trauma trigger for me, and he admitted that his friend didn't actually apologize. He actually said he was sorry I was too sensitive to understand his humor. At that point I told my fiance my friendship with this person is over and I want zero contact from here on out, even if it means I have to miss out on events and parties that I'd otherwise love to go to. He agreed with me that all of this is being done with the intention to get a rise out of me, and that even if we tried to get through to this friend, he's so diabolical that we could never fully trust him to not treat me at least a little bit shitty. My fiance kept asking if this meant he had to quit the project they're working on. I told him I would never tell him he had to because I know how much it means to him, but in all honesty, the fact that this person is treating me so poorly that I'm having physical stress reactions isn't enough for him to want to cut this person off does hurt a lot. The fact that it isn't a deal breaker for him is probably always going to sting a little. He's not confrontational at all, and I always knew that, but it's not about confrontation. It's about standing in my corner. And I can't spend the rest of my life with someone who isn't in my corner. This friend is getting married to my best friend in a few months and we're both supposed to be in the wedding, but I really have no clue how. I get a literal knot in my stomach anytime his name is even mentioned now. I have seen this friend one time since all of this came to a head, and he was so over the top nice to me that it came off as cocky. I had the second breakdown a few days afterwards because I realized I'm possibly going to spend the rest of my life on edge and on guard anytime this person is even somewhat in my vicinity, even if they aren't actively fucking with me. I don't know how to come to terms with the fact that my fiance was willing to lie to me on his shitty friend's behalf, but he's not willing to stand in my corner against him. I think it'll always hurt. This guy was supposed to be the best man in our wedding, and as a result we haven't been talking much about wedding plans. I think if he's still planning on this friend being in our wedding, I may have to call it off for my own sanity, and that sucks so bad. This is fucking eating me alive. I love my fiance so much. I love his big heart and the way he loves all of it. But he loves some truly wretched people, and I don't know if he'll enforce any boundaries with those people before the lack of boundaries becomes too much for me to handle. I'm just hurt. And hurting. And I just want whatever outcome to play out so I can stop feeling so guilty and awful all the time. Relevant comments. Has OP's fiancé defended her in any way? Not necessarily. He's non-confrontational, but he knows the behavior isn't sustainable. He agrees with me that this friend is awful with the intention of being awful. They have a project they've been a part of together for over a decade and it means the universe to him, and that's the biggest factor in all of this. He'd more than likely have to give that up. This entire situation is dog shit and there are zero winners, except for the asshole. What does her best friend say about this behavior? I have my own feelings towards what she's going through. I think she's being love-bombed and gaslit, and I've seen some proof of it with my own eyes. She was there for the bad friend comment and kind of defended him. I know she's so love-struck that she's probably going to choose him and it kills me, but I'm trying really hard to step back in a way that doesn't totally burn my bridge with her in the end. When he gets that ring on her finger, I have a feeling he will be a different man to her and she'll need support. I'll be there when she needs me. When told she should walk away. Don't think I'm ready to make my peace with this comment quite yet, but I hear it and I'm trying. Right before I met my fiancé, I had just cut out a vast majority of people, including one of my closest friends and a blood relative, for making me feel the same shitty small way my fiancé's friend makes me feel. It's so much harder to burn those rotten bridges when they're not yours to burn. That's a lot easier to say when you have no stakes in this, my guy. I'm in love with my partner, and I know that this is eating him up just as much as it is me. Trust me when I say he holds himself accountable for his role in this, and we've had many in-depth conversations about how his friend will forever be this way so long as everybody in his life enables him to be. It's hard to cut someone off even when they deserve it. I'm trying to show my fiancé as much grace as I can because I know how hard it is to give up on someone you always hoped would grow out of their awful behavior. Asked if there's any unresolved conflicts. No, my friend and I haven't ever really had any conflict. Me and her were hanging at my place while our partners got ready to head to hers, and they ding-dong ditched us twice. I heard the door a third time and ignored it because I assumed it was them again, and then the asshole called me, speakerphone from my friend's phone, and told me it was a mutual friend that lived in the building and was looking for them for support. I tried to jokingly call them out for ding-dong ditching, but that was when he yelled, "You're a bad friend," into the phone and hung up. I was really embarrassingly distraught by this and expressed how it was affecting me, and my friend left an hour or two later after we sat in silence. I found out later from my fiancé that all our mutual friends, including him, were in the car and heard that conversation. And everyone felt tense, but nobody said anything to him. It wasn't a joke and wasn't taken as a joke by anyone involved, not just me. After the friend who was knocking on the door went to find them, the asshole called me just to make me feel bad for not opening the door. I could hear the friend that knocked saying, "Hey man, not a big deal, it's fine," real quiet in the background, but no one else spoke up. Trust me, I know these examples seem like they shouldn't be getting to me, but this guy is poking every spot he can on me until he finds one that gives him a reaction, and then he digs and digs. It's hard not to be triggered when his literal intention is so trigger me. I know this isn't going to go on much longer. Update. Never thought I'd actually update this account out of sheer fucking embarrassment, but I wanted to share this for those who encouraged me to put myself first. I want you all to know my partner absolutely came through and protected me in this. We spent all this time since my last post up until last week communicating and trying to find a resolution, and walking through how it got this bad. He took a lot of accountability for that. This is not a case of me giving in. He understands fully that this has only got so bad because it's never been handled correctly, and he had a major hand in that. There were so many more layers to this than a Reddit post ever could have conveyed. The bottom line is we are closer than ever, and after a lot of talking, we decided on my partner sending a firm but not unkind message to his friend explaining the behaviors, explaining that they were hurting his partner, and that it needed to stop. He asked to write up the first draft and we could go over it together to try to perfect it. Reddit, please know the first draft my partner wrote was so spot on what I needed to read that it instantly shifted us into us versus the problem mode when we'd been stuck butting heads for weeks. He laid everything out so clearly and in ways that we hadn't discussed, so I know it came from him. We had to tone down a lot of the big emotions. We really truly gave the message its best shot to address the situation without being hostile. We knew the response would be bad no matter what, but I don't think anything could have fucking prepared us. This man went full scorched earth and blew up everything almost immediately. He insulted my partner. He told him these events didn't happen the way I claim they do. He demanded they meet up alone with a mediator. He even threatened to reach out to my partner's parents to fill them in, which is probably the moment we stopped taking his responses seriously. All of us are almost in our 30s. If once wasn't enough, he threatened it twice. We actually had to call them and warn them that he would be showing up at their place later this week and not to open the door. There's still a good chance he'll attempt it. We stayed respectful throughout all of this, which I feel good about. We didn't stoop to his level. We didn't insult anyone. We asked for basic human respect and somehow it blew up spectacularly. In the end, we both received a massive wall of text from my now ex-best friend, fully backing up her man and telling her side of the story, which is so insanely far off from what actually happened that all I can do is laugh. We've been shifting from crying to being dumbstruck to just straight up laughing because of the absurdity. I went into this thinking she was brainwashed, but it turns out I was wrong. They're a perfect match. I wish them all the best. I am sending them one last message setting the record straight, which my partner and I decided together was the best approach apart from just ghosting, before moving on from this entirely. I'm going to make it very clear this is done. Zero contact indefinitely and I will never look back. My partner and I both deserve way better friends and we both see that so clearly now. I am so fucking glad I learned my friend's true colors before we dropped $800 on a hotel for their wedding. Thank you to everyone who was kind. Not only did I put myself first in the end, but my partner did too. We're going to take this week in stride and process it all, grieve the friendships we once thought were forever, and at the end of the week we have a conveniently timed vacation to my partner's family cottage. I think we're going to come out of this stronger, because we already feel it. Again, thank you to those who had something productive to say. And I've made my peace with all the rest. I guess if the guy does something else outlandish, maybe I'll update, but for now, this chapter is closed and I'm so ready for it to start collecting dust. Relevant comments. When told victims of abusers do a 180 in their behavior to explain why her best friend is acting the way she is and chose the ex-friend's side, I definitely went into this thinking exactly what you just laid out. But I refuse to set myself on fire to keep her warm, and the shit she said in her message about my partner is irredeemable. She can never be a part of our lives again after what was said, out of respect for me and my partner, even if any part of me wanted to hold out hope for her. I hope this is a wake-up call for her, but it won't be me on the other line. Appreciate you and your kind words, friend. This has been hell, but I think we're both just glad to have an outcome. I'll always have love for her, but it will be from a very large distance, and even if by some miracle we reconnect, we will never be as close as we once were without some intense conversations and a lot of growth, maybe not even then. I don't see that being the case for a very long time. I've made my peace with that. How is the fiancé handling the business with the ex-friend as well as he can? He stepped down. He is going to find another project eventually, I know it. This has been so impossibly hard on both of us, but I know it's hitting him a bit more than me right now, and I'm making sure to prioritize him and remind him he can feel that pain and mourn what was, and it's not an insult to me at all if that makes sense. I know what this meant to him. He did give it up. I'm so sad he had to, but I'm grateful to him for putting his foot down. He's going to be okay, just needs some time to grieve and process. My wife overreacts to our daughter's minor injuries, causing strain in our parenting and increasing tension within the family. My 28F wife, 26F Sophia takes every scratch our daughters, 7 and 5, get extremely seriously. Every bruise, every scraped knee, every cut is an emergency to her. And because they're emergencies to her, they become emergencies to the girls. Not only does this mean it's hard to tell when an injury is actually dangerous, did she twist her ankle, or break it? Is her arm bruised, or fractured? But the kids are responding badly to any hurt they feel now. At the mere sight of blood, the 7 starts wailing like she's been stabbed. Even worse, her sister has started intentionally banging her arm into things or falling on concrete if she thinks she's not getting enough attention. Last week my wife took the oldest one to urgent care because she got a canker sore and Sophia was convinced it was something more sinister. While she was gone, I had the younger one, who was upset that Sophia had spent so long on her sister and had now taken her to the doctor to get special attention. So she threw herself on the tile floor in front of me and started screaming and holding the wrist she hadn't actually twisted. I'm so tired of all of this, I just let her scream. When I didn't give her the attention she wanted, her screaming in pain turned into sobbing because I wasn't cuddling her and kissing her better and promising her cookies and a late bedtime. I told her I'd be in the den with the cats when she felt like joining us. I felt like a bitch for letting her cry herself out, but she's never going to learn to walk off scooter falls or getting hit with dodgeballs at this rate, and she can't be rewarded for this kind of behavior. It's just not healthy. Eventually she ran out of tears and came to sit with us, and I let her have a watered-down soda. Well, when Sophia got back with the older kid, who now had the same numbing gel we already had in the cabinet and $200 urgent care bill, our younger daughter told her what happened, and now she's furious at me for ignoring something that could have been serious. I told her she's the one making mountains out of molehills and feeding into the actual dangerous behavior. We've been fighting about it all week and the kids have only been acting up more as a result. I'm so tired of this. Maybe my appendix will burst and I can spend a few nights in the hospital away from this insanity. Relevant comments. OP on if her wife had PPD when she got pregnant and gave birth. Did her wife have any medical trauma, OP? No and no. Both of them were adopted, and to the best of my knowledge she's never had negative doctor experiences. If she had, it wouldn't make sense to keep dragging the girls in for scratched knees. She's absolutely setting them up for failure, she just refuses to see that. If someone here can convince her to see a therapist, or an ounce of reason related to this specific situation, then they're miracle workers. She's great in almost every other aspect, I love her, but the constant coddling and panicking is getting ridiculous. Did OP and her wife have infertility problems? OP, no. As far as I know, both of us were perfectly healthy reproductively speaking. All pregnancy is dangerous and IVFs usually result in multiples, increasing the risks or forcing termination of it doesn't take right. And they're ridiculously expensive. A lot of places aren't exactly trustworthy when it comes to ensuring the health of sperm donors, etc. There wasn't a chance in hell I was ever carrying children, so that was out. She never fought to carry them. When we decided we wanted kids and we were in a place that it was feasible, we looking for agencies and found our girls. OP on the relationship her wife has with their daughters, and if she's overprotective, OP, we've had long talks that always dissolve into arguments over the subject before. As I understand it, she really sees nothing wrong with what she's doing. She wants to make the girls feel like they'll be seen and taken care of, but she's going too far. She does spend time with them regularly. She has an office job and has them alone from 6 p.m. onwards on days when I work, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And she doesn't work on weekends at all. But yes, the younger one has definitely learned that making it look like she's hurt herself, or actually hurting herself, however minor, is a surefire way of getting Madre's attention. Not sure I helped last week. I don't want her thinking mama doesn't care, but I just could not bring myself to reward her pretending to be hurt. That's an interesting idea, it might help the girls, although I don't see it changing Sophia's behavior much. Update. Wow, my first post got more popular than I was expecting. Not a full update, but a few people were curious, so I thought I'd throw this out there with some of this week's developments and some clarifications. This sub only allows 2 updates, so the next one, if I end up publishing it, probably won't be anytime soon. TLDR, my 28F wife, 26F, has been making our daughter's injuries worse by treating all of them like an emergency. This has led to the older one, 7, to genuinely believe that every injury could be fatal, and the younger one, 5, to realize that if she's hurt she gets special things like cookies, candy, extended bedtimes, movies, etc. And is the main source of conflict in our marriage. Clarifications. 1. This is not Munchausen by proxy. Y'all have got to lay off the Hulu docuseries and stop trying to diagnose strangers with serious and sinister medical issues based on one post written by their annoyed spouse. My wife does not hurt them. She is not poisoning them, or looking for drugs to feed them, or posting all over social media about how great she is and how lucky the girls are, etc., 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 or trying to scam people out of money or a Habitat for Humanity house. Sophia is not worrying for the attention of it. She is trying to ensure that they don't feel ignored and neglected, to the point that she takes everything that they say seriously, but she's gone too far and it is now backfiring. The few people who pointed out that the younger's behavior of faking injuries or actually giving herself a bruise could develop into something more serious are correct, however, which is a concern that I also have. 2. Attention. The girls get attention. They get plenty of attention from both of us. They are not being neglected to the point that they need to injure themselves as a cry for help. For one thing, my older daughter doesn't do that. She is just genuinely convinced that bruises could be internal bleeding and any bump on the head could be a concussion. Which means that I'm going to have to give her the period talk pretty soon, or she's going to think she's dying if she starts early. For another thing, the younger one tends to only do it when she thinks her sister is getting something she wants, or we said no earlier in the day. They get attention, but they get special attention when they're sick or hurt. Someone in the comments last time, don't remember the name, suggested flipping it to discourage the younger girl's behavior, by essentially taking away fun things and forcing them to rest when they're sick or hurt. A few other people suggest pain charts of some variety, or first aid classes. Those might help with the older one and Sophia herself. That was probably the most viable advice I got, however well-meaning and true a lot of other stuff was. 3. Therapy right now is not an option. You can suggest it all you want, I can and have suggested all I want, but as of right now it will not be happening anytime soon. We had a bad very experience with a highly regarded adoption specialist therapist a few years ago that resulted in our older daughter having more issues with her adoption than she did when we started, issues that we've had to figure out how to manage on our own because the 2 therapists we tried after that only compounded and exacerbated those new issues. My daughter would have been better off if she'd never been to therapy in the first place. As a result, my wife has lost almost all of her faith in mental health professionals. Quite frankly, I lost the majority of mine as well, and while I've made mention of it to Sophia, my bigger focus is on getting her to just change this one behavior. 4. Was my wife traumatized as a child by being medically neglected? To the best of my knowledge, no. She doesn't have any long-term health issues, and she was never very involved in any physical and potentially dangerous sports when we were in school. Her family hasn't suffered from very many illnesses or accidents, even during COVID. So while I've driven myself to an emergency dentist before and broken my wrist without even knowing it, the only time she's ever been in a hospital was to pick her dad up from a colonoscopy. At least before she started taking our daughters in for benign bumps, bruises, and cuts. 5. No, my wife does not have anything postpartum. The actual update. After a couple of other comments brought up how my girls behave away from us, I decided to ask. My wife works a normal 9-5, while I work 3/12s from 6 p.m. to a.m. on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. During the winter they have school and daycare respectively. This winter the younger one will be in kindergarten though, and during the summer they both go to daycare from about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on my workdays, and just in the mornings on other days as needed. I do drop-offs and pickups. When I picked them up on Monday, I decided to ask one of the caretakers how the girls had been behaving. She told me they were fine. They bickered sometimes, but there was nothing unusual going on. I asked what happens when they get hurt or feel sick during the day, how they handle it, etc. I didn't tell them about my wife. I didn't want to be telling tales out of, or at, school. I think she might have thought I was looking for help, which I was technically, because she told me that as soon as a kid falls down, or takes a ball to the face or anything else, they start the whole interaction by telling them you're okay, and assessing the damage calmly as they approach. Even if the kid is bleeding, they don't react. They say something like, "Wow, that looked kind of scary. I bet it surprised you. Let's see your arm/leg/whatever." She basically wrote me a script. I asked her how my girls reacted to it, and she told me that the older one was a little more sensitive than her peers. She cried easily, and they had to be extra firm with the "you're okays" with her. The younger one she saw a little less. She's in a different age bracket. She only just turned 5, so she's still technically in the pre-K group. But she'd never heard anything about her. I asked what exactly they do if a kid is bleeding or bruised. For bruises, they can sit with a little ice pack for 15 minutes before they need to come back to the ground, unless it's actually serious. And for cuts, they get it washed and a band-aid. So nothing exciting as far as I could tell. The fact that we haven't been called into the school to pick up our totally terribly injured 5-year-old before tells me that she knows she won't get Madre's special treatment at the school, and since I will be the one picking her up if they think she's too sick or something, there's really no point in kicking up too much of a fuss unless she just wants to hold something cold for a few minutes. Neither of the girls have been hurt or sick this week. We stopped arguing, because I frankly do not have the energy to do so constantly. I'll look into the pain chart and first aid classes and bring up boring damage mitigation soon, once we've both had time to calm down. Additional information from OP, I'm going to put this here, since apparently it needs to be said. I am aware that saying it's okay or you're okay the way the daycare workers do is a good idea. This is what I have been trying to implement for a long time. Even if a child is genuinely hurt, adults need to remain calm to keep the child calm. If an adult is upset, then the already upset kid will become more upset, and if that kid isn't upset, then they will be when they see their parents freaking out. I am not looking for excitement. I genuinely have no idea how you read my post and got that impression. None. If I'm playing checkers, you've started a game of chess. I am trying to end the excitement. When I said nothing exciting in my post, it was not because I don't want to implement something boring, it's because I do. I very much want my kids being hurt to stop being exciting or rewarding. That is the entire point of everything here. Of a week of arguing, of every other argument before this one. There was no one working up my older daughter. The younger one wasn't getting rewarded. If anything, being hurt at daycare got her essentially a timeout with an ice pack, or rubbing alcohol and a pat on the back. That is a good thing. That is what I want. OP on communicating with her wife about their daughters on how to react if they got hurt. OP, I've talked with her a lot about it. It used to start when she was already working up because one of the girls was hurt or something, and I'd try to calm her down and help the girls calm down. She'd be so keyed up that it would turn into a fight fast. So after a while I stopped trying to interfere at the time, because us arguing while one girl and inevitably the other cried wasn't exactly helpful. After that I started waiting until after all of the excitement of the emergency had passed by to bring it up. Especially when the younger girl started intentionally falling or bumping into things. I'd try to tell her that making a huge deal out of every scrape was just making things worse and the girls needed to figure out how to self-regulate and tell if they were actually hurt or not. She would accuse me of being callous and tell me she wasn't going to make our daughters feel helpless, hurt and abandoned. And no matter how hard either of us tried is dissolved into another argument. My delusional stepdad ruins my $900 prom dress out of spite. Now we're taking him to court for the damage, and the drama unfolds. My delusional stepdad deliberately destroyed my $900 prom dress because I refused to give his golden child son money for his prom outfit. He got what was coming to him. I've never posted here before, but I really need advice because I'm so upset and have no idea what to do. I'm only 17 and not sure if there's any legal action I can take. For some context, I live with my biological mom and her husband since my parents separated and were never married. I originally lived with my dad from the age of 2. He won custody in the custody battle, but he later lost custody after a severe work accident left him paralyzed, making it impossible for him to take care of me. I still see him every weekend and spend the entire summer with him. When I was 10, I moved in with my mom, her husband, and their 2 sons, one stepbrother and one half-brother. Ever since then, my stepdad has made it clear, both directly and indirectly, that I've disrupted their lives by re-entering my mother's life because I'm just another person they have to take care of. I've been working since 10th grade and have been saving up for my senior year in college since last year with the money from my job. My mom and her husband made it clear that my mom would only help with the basics like my graduation cap and gown, senior dues, and senior class photo. Everything else, like prom, I'd have to pay for myself. I earn about $400 every 2 weeks from my job, which I've been saving entirely, and I make extra money by doing nails, around $100 a week plus tips, which I use for spending money. Since it's my senior year and the last year of high school, I wanted to go all out for prom, so I set an $800 budget for my prom dress. My prom is in April, and I wanted to get my dress early since the really cute ones sell out fast. So, I went prom dress shopping in December and found a gorgeous dress that cost $890. It's dark green with a long train, rhinestones embedded into it, and glitter throughout the fabric. When I first showed my mom and stepdad the dress, they asked how much it was. My mom said she wouldn't pay for a dress that expensive, but I told them it was fine because I had more than enough money saved up to buy it and would still have plenty left, $23,000 to be exact, though only my mom knows that. My mom said I could get the dress and that it was very pretty. However, my stepdad said it was irresponsible and a waste of money, and that I should use it for better things like helping out the family and paying some bills, suggesting I get a cheaper dress for no more than $300. Mind you, both his sons own PS5s and multiple pairs of $200 plus shoes. Long story short, my mom disagreed with him, and I ended up getting the dress. She even contributed $150 toward it. However, ever since then, my stepdad constantly brings up that I should help pay for things around the house since I have so much money to throw away. But my mom always shuts him down, saying that I work hard for my money and that I already help out by paying for Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu bills, while my 18-year-old stepbrother doesn't pay for anything. Last Saturday, we had a huge argument because my stepdad suggested that I should help my stepbrother pay for his prom, to which I firmly said, no. He later called me selfish and said it wasn't fair that I get an expensive outfit while his son doesn't. I guess I responded with some snark, saying, that's not my child or my problem. He then tried to complain to my mom, who sided with me, saying that if anything, he should pay for his own son's prom. Well, today, I woke up from a nap and noticed my prom dress was missing from my closet. It was right at the front, so I immediately noticed it was gone. I asked my stepdad if he'd seen it since my mom was at work, and he told me with a condescending smile that he was washing it. I immediately ran downstairs and saw my dress being washed on the heavy-duty cycle. I canceled it right away, but the damage was done. Most of the rhinestones had fallen off, the glitter had washed out, and the entire dress was mangled. I took one look at it, then threw it in a trash bag and left for my friend's house, taking the dress with me. I texted my mom and sent her pictures, but I'm currently at my friend's house, lying on her bed. Her parents hung the dress outside to air dry so that my stepdad can't blame them if it was dried in the dryer. I know he did this to spite me because he never washes clothes, cooks, or does anything around the house since he considers himself the man of the house, so there was no reason for him to be washing my dress, even if it needed washing. Is there anything I can do? I realize neither of them can replace it, considering their difficult financial situation. I'll keep you all posted when mom gets home. So far my stepdad has called twice, but I haven't picked up, and my mom's at work and unable to take calls. Edit. I'm not sure how to add updates, so I'll just include an edit. My mom and I just spoke on the phone, and she's furious and on her way home. My friend, her dad, and I are heading to my house now, and my mom said she was going to call the cops as soon as she finished talking to me, so they might be there by the time I arrive. We've taken pictures, and my uncle, who is my mom's brother, will be over by 8 because I contacted him while he was at work. I've been considering your suggestions about withdrawing my money from my account, and I discussed it with my dad, who told me I could stay with him. Edit/update 2. When I got home, my friend stayed in the car while her dad walked me in, and my stepdad was already gone. However, the police were at the house. As of now, the police said they couldn't really arrest him because it's not like he technically stole anything. It's hard to explain, but basically, they said that because he washed the dress and didn't keep it, it's not considered theft. They suggested I could get a confession and have him pay or take him to small claims court. Also, the dress is non-refundable if damaged, so I can't return it or anything. While explaining everything to my mom, I got flustered and started crying. And she hugged me as I cried and told me that he's going to pay for this. This financial issue has been an ongoing argument, and I think he just pushed her too far this time because she's really angry. I also talked to my uncle, and he's off work and on his way over. Apparently, my uncle and stepdad have a rocky history since my stepdad has mouthed off to him in the past. When I explained what happened, my uncle reassured me that everything would be okay, and if needed, he would buy back the dress before it sells out, so I'll still have it for prom. He does expect my stepdad to pay me back one way or another, so it looks like I'll probably end up with my dress for free. Maybe that's a small victory. I'll likely update more later tonight, but things seem to be heading in the right direction. Edit. To clear up any confusion, I pay for the streaming service bills because I really want to watch the shows on those platforms, and my mom works hard but doesn't earn enough to afford those services on top of everything else. So I offered to pay for them so we could have them. She's not the kind of mother who would pick her husband over me, and she always defends me. My stepdad has never pulled a stunt like this before. He just tries to convince her to control my money and savings, but she's never touched my savings. I feel like that's why they always clash, because he has this mindset that, we have all these financial troubles, and your daughter could solve them with her savings, and you have access to them. My uncle came over, and he and my mom had a bit of an argument because he blamed her for enabling my stepdad's behavior by not leaving him, which he thinks is why my stepdad felt comfortable doing what he did. She argued back, saying she's always defended me against him and has never taken any of my money. Which is true. We all talked about it for a while, and she revealed that they actually had an argument last night about paying off a car payment. She mentioned how all these bills are wearing her down, and he responded by saying it wouldn't be such a burden if she used my savings and didn't let me spend it on foolishness. She got angry and defensive because he keeps bringing it up. He also pointed out that the $900 I spent on my dress could have covered the car payment for the next 2 months. By the way, he only knows about my savings because he knows how much I get paid and that I've been saving all of it, so we think that's what triggered him to throw my dress in the washer. My mom and stepdad have been texting back and forth, and he admitted that he washed the dress to teach me a lesson about not spending so much money on something that can be ruined so easily. But he deliberately set the washer to heavy duty, so it's clear he intended to destroy it. My uncle has offered to replace the dress, so I don't need to worry about not having my special dress. We called the boutique and explained everything, and they said they could order another dress, though it won't arrive until February 23rd, which is fine. My mom sent my stepdad a long, threatening message basically calling him out. She's really heated right now, so I'm going to try to ask for a screenshot later. She and my dad also talked and decided it would be best if I got my own bank account so that my stepdad can't use the excuse that she has access to my account, which is also great. My mom and I had a discussion about what's going to happen next, and she said she's not sure yet because it's all a bit overwhelming for her. She's seriously considering leaving him, but I guess she doesn't want to talk about that just yet. My stepdad is currently staying at a friend's house. I'll keep updating, and I might have another one tomorrow. My friend's parents are going to keep the dress at their house, and I'll pick it up tomorrow to have as proof. My uncle has wired me $1,000 for my prom dress, and I'm planning to use the money to replace the dress and buy new shoes. He's quite well off, which is one of the reasons I reached out to him in the first place. I'm going to call the boutique and see if they can reorder the dress, and I'll just pick it up sometime in February. However, we still want my stepdad to pay in some way, and we're working on that. My uncle has also called my other uncles and aunts, with my permission, to vent about the situation, so now most of my mom's side of the family, who all live in Georgia, are aware of what happened. I woke up to a flood of texts expressing sympathy and even some offers of money for prom, which have added up to about $300. So that's a positive outcome. My mom also contacted my step-in-laws, who then spread the news, complete with pictures, And I guess most of them are shocked, except for his mother, who is still buying his excuse that it's just a dress and it was an accident, despite the evidence. I also got a call from my stepdad's sister, who expressed sympathy, and through our conversations, I learned that my stepdad has been asking a lot of his family for financial help because, for some reason, he's bought so many things on credit that he can't keep up with the payments. My mom called my stepdad for answers, which we recorded, and he's basically trying to blame her, saying that if she hadn't pissed him off last night, he wouldn't have done it. He claimed he was trying to teach me a lesson about being responsible with money and that he had planned to lecture me afterward. My mom has now broken up with him because he blamed her for caring more about me than him, which is bizarre. This led to an argument where my mom said, "You think I care about her more than you? Well, you're about to see just how much I do." Their relationship had already been rocky because he can't manage money, and this was the final straw for her. So a lot has happened. First off, we've placed an order for my dress and it's being shipped now. It should arrive at the boutique by February 23rd, so that's sorted. My stepdad and mom are officially broken up, but my mom isn't sure yet if she'll proceed with the divorce because everything is still so fresh, and lawyers are expensive, and she can't afford it right now. They also have a prenup, so they don't share any assets, and the house is my mom's. It was her dad's house that she inherited. She had a different dad from her siblings, who all share the same father. My stepdad came back with his brother after a while and tried to make up for everything by buying me a new dress from Macy's that's similar in color and length to the original, but it's very tacky and ugly and looks nothing like the dress I originally had. He then tried to apologize, saying it wasn't his intention to ruin the dress and that he was just going to wash it to make a point, like, "See, this is why you don't buy things like this." And then he would have bought me another dress. But that explanation makes no sense at all. My uncle also came back to the house after I texted him that my stepdad had returned. My uncle was at the store when he got my message, and when he arrived, they got into a huge argument. My uncle demanded to know why my stepdad destroyed the dress, but my stepdad said he wasn't going to let anyone walk into his house and start making demands. My uncle called him a name, and my stepdad told him to say it again. So he did, and they ended up fighting. My stepdad lost the fight and then threatened to call the cops, but we reminded him that he swung first. After that, he went on a rant, cussed us out, and left, taking the dress with him. We're actually planning to follow your advice and take him to small claims court, considering the evidence and the damage. Hopefully, we'll come out on top. Right now, my stepdad is staying at his parents' house. For those curious about my brothers, here's an update. My 15-year-old half-brother was at his girlfriend's house since Friday, so he missed all the drama, but he reached out to me today. I love him so much. My 18-year-old stepbrother, on the other hand, has basically taken his dad's side, so there's not much more to say about that. Also, for those who suggested changing the streaming passwords, I've done that, and my mom and I are going to set up a new bank account for me later today. Thanks so much for all the support. I'll keep you updated as we make plans and hopefully get a favorable verdict.